You seem to love when I sing. The troubles do seek to love when I sing. The troubles do singing. Why you gotta be so afraid when you know this feeling will never fade? So you gotta hold me and never let me go. Scold me, told me that you love me, so please me. Put me in your mighty grip, squeeze me. Let the juices of our love drip. Hold me and never let me go. Scold me, told me that you love me, so please me. Put me in your mighty grip, squeeze me. Let the juices of our love drip down. There is a hidden meaning in each strand that I can never understand to tell you. It's like there is this burning inside, thoughts and turning my mind to explain what I do. But you seem to love when I sing. The troubles do seek to love when I sing. The troubles do singing. Why you gotta be so afraid when you know this feeling will never fade? So you gotta hold me and never let me go. Scold me, told me that you love me, so please me. Put me in your mighty grip, squeeze me. Let the juices of our love drip. Hold me and never let me go. Scold me, told me that you love me, so please me. Put me in your mighty grip, squeeze me. Let the juices of our love drip down, down. Baby, keep it dripping. Slow down the time. Your clock from ticking. Try to understand. It'll be a Superman if you continue to slip or reach as fast as I can. And when you squeeze me, you please me. Try your best not to leave me. And when I see you with a thirst, so you know I'll be first in line. So let the juices of our love drip. Hold me and never let me go.
When you shake up, lives and thoughts they never really knew, then you do wake up. Realize that your word is really true, and then you take them on a journey that they never dreamed could exist in a place where the love is rarely seen. And then you break up all the hate and take the pain away so you can make up time that's lost to strife and hurtful days. No, you can't fake love. No, 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 no. But you can't overstand that the world needs a better way. Spread the love each and every day. Come together, let there be no stray. Deep inside, the positive vibes, your stable guide. All of us is we live our life in the dark and throughout the night. Love and ganja always burning bright. solution. Green and fine, no matter, we don't need no prosecution. Let them be, and we can have ourselves a revolution of the life that everybody leads. The big, the rich, the small, the poor, just human equality, no more pollution. Green and lush, the earth as it should be. The contribution of every human helps to end the very prostitution of everything we know and love and need. So everywhere in every place is life in unity, because the world needs a better way. Spread the love each and every day. Come together, let there be no stray. Deep inside, the positive vibes, we stable guide all of us as we live our life. In the dark and throughout the night, love and ganja always burning bright. Because the world needs a better way. Spread the love each and every day. Come together, let there be no stray. Deep inside, the positive vibes, you stable guide all of us as we live our life. In the dark and throughout the night, love and ganja always burning bright.
Sinya uli di sombranzelten mak et zu ita saluda antes di hum niga Radzaudzan malakes frezas durante in todo in memu a no gi distancia como cupu gi palu zangiman malak guafi Ikonum nasugi airi prebatu la noci nai banderata gaigi pues atan fanni bandera kau Esta pagua pumalapa Giluk tanu man libri Tentami ti man ko badi
Fando
Yahuwah Zeus Brutalis land warm.
Ihilo Jani Biblia Ibandera Ibandera Mohan yes 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 Ibandera Mohan yeah. Mastakilu, hina soku, kinini mastakalu, ikurason hu, then imas figu, nani nasinyahu, hu ufresin maisatu, parabaputei, then defendi, hinengi, kultura, lengwahi. Tamoru, yes, yes, yes. Tanitanu Tamoru, yes, yes, yes. Ni ile shaku, la la la. Diretto to stop that. Diretto to stop that. Diretto to stop that. Diretto to stop that. Esti at Vidma. Ihilo. Tani Biblia. Ibandera Ibandera Mohan, yes, yes, yes. 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 Ibandera Mohan,
Good morning, Guam. Right on. Morning, Bree.
Good morning.
All right. Guys, we're looking at a little extra hot this morning.
Coming in hot.
Coming in very hot. My PPPP.
Okay, now, Link fam, you know, normally we say we want to share some of our island warmth for those of you mainlanders who are, like, dealing with the snow right now.
Yeah.
Can we actually, like, reciprocate? Because the aircon's a little bit on the fritz, and it's quite warm in here, so we could use some cooling down.
The aircon's malfunction. It's been out since what?
Saturday.
Saturday. Nice. But
Hot in the city!
you know what? That's not going to stop us because we have a job to do. And we are here to do it. Sweaty fafa or not sweaty fafa, whatever you
Yeah.
want, however you like it.
We are excited, we are motivated, we missed you guys, and maybe by 10 o'clock the room might smell a little bit different, but you
Yeah.
know, than it
Yeah.
does now, but
You're,
we're, here. We're good to go.
Your Facebook Live might fog up. It's 6:23 Monday. Yes, finally. Oh my God. Finally, the last day of January. Was it just me? This was a long month.
It was this one, and you know, conventional wisdom seems to be that this Omicron surge, if we're lucky, crossing our fingers, Dr. Annette David has said as such, Dr. Hoa Wen has said as such.
Oh, it's over tomorrow.
It might start to subside in the 3rd or 4th week of February.
Yeah.
The upside, though, is February is the shortest month of the year.
Right on. I remember Dr. Berg had said, with the little luck, by February 1st, but Dr. Annette David said, nah, I don't think so. Dr. Lombard said, we're still weeks away. He thinks we're still peaking. Yeah. Yep.
And the numbers from this past weekend would probably support that.
Yeah, definitely. We'll get into it. Coming up on the show, you
And the
know.
positivity rate, too, you guys. It was like
Oh, man, dude.
36%, 37%.
Good morning, Facebook Live. We're not going on KUAM TV today, right?
No,
Yeah.
it's football.
There's a big game today, and the Kansas City Chiefs playing at home in Arrowhead, where it is very, very, very loud.
Yeah.
They've already struck first blood. They're up on the Bengals. The high power, the high octane offense of the Bengals are up 7-zip.
All right. Cincinnati and Kansas City. And
That's
then the big game, the one we really care about. The 49ers of San Francisco
Yep.
taking on the Rams of Los Angeles.
You sound like Coming to America.
The Rams of Los Angeles.
Sir, the Giants of New York beat the Packers of Green Bay by kicking an oblong ball through 2 poles. It was most exciting.
You know what I meant, though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what time's the real game?
That one's at 9 o'clock. That's not on KUMTV.
Right, yep. So we're not going to be on KUAM TV this morning?
Yeah, if you're not watching us this morning, I mean, you can do like the multi-screen thing, but I mean, if you're paying attention to football a little bit
Yeah.
more, you're still on our Christmas list.
Wow, Jay, I didn't know. I didn't pay attention really this year. Bengals?
Cincinnati. So I'm sure Mama Bear, Debbie Davis, because you know Cincinnati, Southern Ohio, Northern Kentucky, it's kind of like the same community there. So I'm sure Debbie is quite excited about the Bengals.
Right on.
They are fun to watch. I mean, they got some weapons there.
Okay. Who's their quarterback?
Joe Burrow, the
Okay.
Heisman Trophy winner.
Wow. 625 Facebook Live. Good morning, Ken Paulino. Who else we got here? Liz Agagi out of Eva Beach, Hawaii. Good morning, Bennett Lujan Duenas. Good morning on you. Rosemary LaGuardia, Angel Peak, Antoniza Castro, Chamarita Regis. Good morning from the beautiful hillside of Sinania. Vanessa Barcinas. Good morning, Chris, Sabrina, Jason, and all buenas para todos, Tauto Guahan.
Okay, we need to think cool thoughts.
Oh, really?
I don't know about you because I'm starting to sweat just talking about football, but think cool.
We cut on the fan because I don't like it when my Omicron sits in a cloud. I want it to be circulating.
Yeah.
That fan is on, but you can't really feel it.
Yeah, because his homeboy's got the door blocking it. Can you close the door?
Fanning the door.
What,
No
so
way,
keeping
don't
the door
close-
open, we
No,
closing
leave
it?
the door open.
Okay.
Right on. We have an open door policy.
Okay. Now you know we've had some very, very generous sponsors on the show for the 2 years that we've been doing it. They've given us some amazing food, and we thank each and every one of them. Could we possibly get like a sponsor that would like drop off some popsicles today?
Mungy Pops.
Yeah,
Oh
Mungy
man,
Pops.
Mungy Pops would
Mungy
be
Pops.
fantastic. Okay, we love Mungy Pops on the show. Chris, your favorite is your go-to Mungy Pop is the
I like the Nutella banana one.
and Brie, yours is the calamansi strawberry.
I like that.
Yeah,
How about you, Jay?
I like the calamansi strawberry as well.
We might have to make a Mungy Pop run.
Yeah.
Sure.
Maybe.
I have to.
And you know what? You can actually get those at Pacific Points, and our friends at Pacific Points will hook you up.
There you go. Good morning. Coming up on the Monday show, we always get the mayor of PD. He's also the president of the Mayor's Council of Guam, Mayor Jesse Allig. We're getting work week weather with Landon Iletta, the National Weather Service. Also getting attorney Mike Pangilinan. He's like the head of SHRM.
That's right, and lots obviously going on now with the CDC's evolving, changing, policies, guidance.
They're ever evolving.
Yeah, and now whether individual organizations, specifically in the private sector,
Right.
What are they going to do about requiring vaccinations? Maybe not requiring vaccinations, requiring the mask, maybe not. What does this mean for hiring new people and everything like
Right,
that?
yeah.
So like the HR community is a buzz these days. I've talked to a couple
Yeah.
of my friends. Who
I'm
work for-
curious to ask him about when people have to miss work for as a close contact or whatever.
Yeah.
What's the ruling on that? Is it just something that, too bad, so sad?
Yeah, and I was actually talking to some education friends of mine, from a semi-related sector, and they were saying probably for the last 2 or 3 years, and maybe even possibly like next year, the whole concept in education of like perfect attendance, that's like
Yeah.
all out the window now.
Yeah, pretty much.
Did you guys ever get the perfect attendance award? I never did. Bree, did you ever get perfect attendance?
Maybe.
Maybe he seems like the perfect attendance type.
No, when I was sick, when I was young, I just stayed home. And there
Uh,
may or may not have been a couple times when I was young, because of the time difference, when on a day like today, when you've got awesome football showing on Sunday afternoon in the States, Monday morning in the States, I may have told my mama.
a little scratchy in the throat here. Yeah, it's going to be amazing how many people are going to be out today because they were close contact with a COVID positive.
But
right?
then my dad, of course, being being the wise soul that he was, saying, "Okay, you're gonna stay home from today." I'm like, "Yeah, Dad, I'm not feeling so well." All right, unplug the cable.
Yeah.
And he's like, "I'm gonna come home," and he would always like put his hand on the TV to see if it was warm,
Yep.
if I was watching TV. So
Yeah. So if I stay at home sick, we had to like literally stay in the bed sick because the minute you could get him walk around, Grandma would be like, "Oh, you can get him walk around. Well, guess what? You can do all this work here too since you
Yeah.
didn't go to school."
those cows aren't gonna pasture themselves.
Isn't there a new flow chart
There
Yeah.
is.
Breeze.
related to close contact?
Yeah. So what is the deal with this
Yeah,
new
you got-
flow chart?
And sir, Joe, sir, you got
This
that
is like
too.
the third flow chart in the last week.
Okay,
Really?
so from
No,
Oh.
sarcasm.
a reading from the book of Flowchart, if you would. So
Okay.
basically, what it looks like they did. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but the right column here, they basically say if you are either fully vaccinated or ineligible to get the vaccine, and then it basically like splits it, and then says if you're a close contact of somebody that has already tested positive for COVID-19 on the right side, and you don't feel sick, you're okay. If you do feel sick, you want to quarantine or self-isolate.
Can I see?
Test it. I'm sorry. Oh yeah, you got to take it.
Okay, so here we go. Oh, you're showing it? You got it up? Yeah, this is the new confusing guidance here. Let's just start. If you're not fully vaccinated and you're a close contact of someone who tested positive for quarantine, you must quarantine for at least 10 days since the last exposure. After day 7 with a lab negative collection between day 5 and 7 of the last exposure. But then they're also saying don't get tested if you don't have the symptoms. If you're not fully vaccinated and you test positive for COVID and you feel sick, you must isolate for at least 10 days. If you don't feel sick, you have to isolate for 10 days since your test result.
And I'm sure Mike Pangilinan, who's again going to come on fairly shortly, he's probably like looking over this and saying, how does this change from the previous one? How are employers going to like react to it? 'Cause this is just a GovGuam
Yeah.
guidance, right? This
Yeah.
isn't the official like CDC one
So-
or like federal.
If you're fully vaccinated or ineligible for vaccination, and you are a close contact to someone who's test positive for COVID-19 and you feel sick, you should get tested. If you don't feel sick, no quarantine or testing required. Go to school, work. Oh, man. If you, however, are fully vaccinated or ineligible for vaccination and you test positive for the virus and you feel sick, you must isolate for at least 5 days since the onset of symptoms. If you don't feel sick, you must isolate for 5 days since specimen collection. So it's all the kind of, if you're sick and not fully vaccinated, ineligible for vax, you test positive, you got to isolate for 5 days. However, if you're a close contact, you're fully vaccinated, ineligible, and you don't feel sick, guess what? You got to go to school, you got to go to work.
Now the timing, of
Even
this
though
is
you could
interesting.
be asymptomatic. Wow, that's crazy.
Now, when should the federal home test kits arrive, guys? Because they said what, 7 to 12 days, right?
Yeah. Let us know in the comments if you guys have got.
Yeah. Did you guys get yours? I didn't get mine. Did you guys get yours?
And then I guess, guys, this is the new flow chart here. This is what we're following. Because what's happening is a lot of you guys are missing work. So they keep changing. I don't know. My opinion is like they keep changing the guidance to find a way for you to get your ass to work.
Yeah. That is a really good point that you made because
Because how does the science change in like 2 weeks? Right? It's impossible.
because
So-
yeah, like if you have to basically isolate because you may have come in contact with
Oh,
someone.
Amy said she got hers on Friday.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Oh wow, Amy Jackson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amy
Oh, congratulations.
Jackson.
Well, I know Amy when they first announced this and everything. She was one of the first people to jump online and,
Right,
Home
yeah.
and make her
delivery.
order.
Home delivery. Right to the. Yep.
Yeah.
There you
Can
go.
you take a picture and send it to us?
Hit our DMs, Amy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What do you look like?
Yeah. Slide on in there like it's home plate.
Amy's always on top of it. She's
You guys, you know what I'm hearing though? I mean, we heard last week, and I know they have the Operation Guardian, but I'm hearing GDOE, a lot of people out. Yeah,
I talked to, I messaged Michelle this morning, and so far no schools are on remote learning.
right. Yeah,
So-
and so that's what John Fernandez had said. What they were going to look at it case by case, and then make a determination at each of the different schools if they need to go to online or if they need to do cohorts or whatever. Then that determination will be made. I kind of feel like our mode right now, though, with Gov Guam is just pedal to the metal. What did John say? Withstand this surge. I feel like you're just gonna have to work. You're gonna
Yeah,
have to go to school.
That is interesting. So if I have to isolate because I may or may not be positive until I know, right? You're in that kind of like that gray area. And I'm an employee of a private sector company, which I am. Does that count against my
So according to this,
my sick leave?
but according to this guidance, like if you let's say Jay, you had a positive. Let's say, I mean, theoretically, you had a positive at work in your office, and they tested positive. Then according to this, if you didn't feel anything, you would just still have to go to work, which is a total 180 from what it was before. Right? That's pretty crazy. I don't know. I mean, do we trust? I mean, are we in that point where, oh, it's a new guidance for public health? Okay, guys, scrap the old one. We got to pay
Yeah.
it. I mean, is that where you guys are? Because I just feel like I'm checking out on this. They're changing it too much.
There you go. You know what, guys?
That
You
you
know what the
can't
flow
really-
chart works for great too.
It works great
Too
for this.
fan. if you're like us and you actually have reported to work because you may not know or you're just going to work right now.
Thank you, public health, for this
The
nice fan.
The blow chart.
The blood.
Blow chart.
And you're hot boxing like us.
Yeah, we're light it up. Let's chamber out, guys. The
Hey,
blow
what
chart.
we've had,
you did
we-
not, Bree.
What we've done here on
I
the show,
sure did.
we've had wipes up, we've had blow chart.
Check your messenger, Jay. Amy said.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you, Amy.
I mean, you know what I mean, though. You know what I mean. Is this because of the shortage of test kits? And then I would love to have someone from public health come on and explain this crap. I mean, really, like explain how is it last week if we were a close contact of someone who tested positive, we'd have to get tested, and now this week we don't. And I guess it's because of the test kit shortage.
We actually have several people who, okay, not just Amy,
Nice.
but thank you, Link Fam, for sending their stuff. Okay, here's one, guys. This is from,
Neat.
okay, this is Joe Boy and Nadine Cruz. And here is their
Wow.
self-test home kit.
And there's 4, right? 4
Yeah,
in
4.
one.
Yeah,
4-pack.
Four
But
per
what if you have a family
four per
with
residence,
one
right?
floor?
Yeah, we
Gotta
talked
go.
about this breed. Basically, multi-generational households. Yeah, you're just getting 4.
So the guidance
forget
is
as
if you get these home test kits, you have to report it to public health
Right.
if you test positive.
If you test positive.
Did you call or what?
Yeah, good luck with that.
311.
Maybe you send a smoke signal. Or you just telepathically.
And Joe Boy and Nadine said they got theirs on Friday as well. So you know what? Awesome. And thank you, U.S. Postal Service, because I
Yeah.
mean they've got so much on their plate already, and I mean,
Is it like the size of an envelope?
of a which?
Or did it come in an
Yeah, how
envelope?
big is it,
or-
guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's the bubble wrap around it. So
Yeah.
I can't. I see.
I'm sure it's not coming in one of those brown Amazon boxes with a smile on it. So just
Yeah,
FYI.
yeah.
Oh, 2 packs of 2, according to.
Oh, 2 packs. Okay, 2 packs of 2. Good to
so
know.
Total of 4. Yeah.
Use them sparingly, guys.
2 pack.
I'm waiting. Is anyone going to go to the testing site and be like, hey, get your test kits, symptomatic, asymptomatic, whatever, get your test kits.
Blow chart time.
Yeah, blow chart time. Yeah, so that's the guidance, guys. Well, you know what's crazy is because I know someone in a situation, they're fully vaccinated, and they're a close contact to someone who tested positive, and last week, the protocol was that they would have to go get tested, and now they don't have to. So that's it's interesting. But that's the latest, guys. So guess what? If you are fully vaxxed and you are a close contact to someone who tested positive for the virus and you don't feel sick, you got to go to school. You got to go to work. Yep. If you feel sick, you should get tested, okay? Because you're one of these symptomatic priorities. However, and then we'll go over this again, I guess. Fully vaxxed are ineligible for vax if you test positive for the virus and you feel sick. You must isolate to be discontinued after at least 5 days since the onset of symptoms. If you don't feel sick, isolate for 5 days since your test result. I was talking to Hoa last week, and he was because they're not doing the clearance letters anymore.
Right.
And basically, what it was they were so far behind with these clearance letters. I mean, I wish I could do that at work. Man, I'm so far behind. Can we just never mind that whole project that I got? Because it's not working out for me. So basically, they were so far behind with the clearance letters. I mean, I heard hundreds of clearance letters that they threw up their arms and they were like, guess what? You don't need a clearance letter anymore to go back to work. So I guess we'll get Mike Pangilinan on and ask him all about this stuff.
And to
Public
get
Health is also not doing the exemptions, approving the exemptions, at least for GovGuam employees.
Right.
because
They're
to get
leaving
the
it up to
clearance
the
letters.
GovGuam agency heads.
Oh, I'm sorry, Brie. To get the clearance letters, is it a process that's as maybe detailed as being like discharged from like the hospital or from like the ISOFAC facility? Because I know even that, it's not as
There's
simple
no
as-
screening.
Yeah,
That's what
it's
Hoa
not
was-
as simple as just like signing off or stamping
Yeah.
a form. And I mean, there is there are some a sequence of activities that have to go up to that, and
Right,
it
yeah.
takes some time. So
It kind of seemed like before, when you cycled out of the virus, there was a little more time. But now it's like, they're like, 5 days, that's it, you're done, go to work. I hope we told the virus this, guys. At 6:40, Jay, we had a question. Where is Pacific Points?
Pacific Points is all over the place. So probably a Pacific Points within a couple miles from you. Probably walking distance.
Yeah.
The ones I go to the most are in
they're
Pacific
in
Points
Shell
basically in
stations.
Shell
Yeah.
stations. So Shell Foodies. I go to the one on NCS Road. I go to the one next to Jack in the Box. Bree and I, when we've, even going all the way back when we still could give presentations to UOG kids, we would go to the one in Manila. And I
Yeah.
mean, they're all over the place.
Yeah. How many points you got?
I've got a lot.
Nice.
Yeah.
Uh,
So I'm getting some stuff. So
Jamie Lynn comments here, for school, it is still required. I have to email to request for one for my son, so they better give me one. Yeah, they're not requiring it anymore, but they do have them if you do need it. Let's say you want to err on the side of caution, maybe, because we're in a pandemic. Yeah, so you can check public health for that. We'll go ahead and get into the news now. Arlene Steffi, Jay is coming up at 7 o'clock. We're discussing a migratory bird.
yes, one of Arlene's many talents, as we kind of like said the last time she was on, is she
She's
has
a birder.
become she's become in her later years and everything like an avid bird watcher, and that's something that a lot of people did, like maybe in the 70s and 80s, but I mean it's making a comeback. A lot of people collected stamps. People did Chia Pet, the pet rock, but bird watching has always like been a thing. She's actually going to talk about some of the regional birds like around and how if you want to get into this, it's something that you can stay at home and do, and how you can actually like identify birds and join the community.
Nice. And we're talking about birds other than chickens, guys. Just so you know. 641 Pacific Points presents our first look at news here with Sabrina Salas-Mantanani from the KUAM News team. It is 641 Monday, the last day of January with the very latest. Good morning, Sabrina.
And considering how hot it is in here, Bree, your makeup looks fantastic.
Oh, thank you very much. Off it, everybody. The Guam Police Department has launched a death investigation following the discovery of human remains in Chalampago. Discovery was made as GFD responded to a trash fire along Route 10. CID has taken over the investigation. Criminal Investigation Division detectives have again taken over the investigation. They're asking if you have any information or if you know of any missing persons or have an overdue family member returning home. Please call GPD. The number is 671-475-8615. 16 or 17. The death toll due to COVID has increased as Friday night. The JIC reported the island's 285th COVID-related fatality. He was 45 years old and was reported dead on arrival at GRMC last Wednesday. The man was vaccinated with unknown underlying health conditions, according to the JIC. He tested positive the same day. Since Friday night, Guam recorded 1,583 new positive cases of COVID. This is from 4,355 tests conducted within that time frame. Additional results from the weekend will be reported in tonight's JIC. As of Sunday, 40 people were hospitalized for COVID, 2 patients receiving ICU level of care. 29 patients are vaccinated, 11 are unvaccinated. The CNMI reports 92 new cases of COVID out of 445 tests conducted on the 29th. Of those new cases, 55 were found through contact tracing, 25 were identified in community testing, and 12 via travel testing. 4 were identified on ROTA. There are now 10 active hospitalizations, 5 of whom are unvaccinated, 4 vaccinated, and 1 is partially vaccinated. One of those patients is on a ventilator, while 1 was discharged. The total case count since March 2020 in the CNMI is now 4,864. GDOE, in the meantime, reported Friday that 112 students tested positive for COVID-19, while 14 employees tested positive. GDOE has launched Operation Guardian, where staff from GDOE Central are dispatched to help schools stay open. Although Catholic schools have switched to remote learning, the Archdiocese released numbers on how many students have tested positive between January 14th and the 19th. The total was 39 students infected. Distance learning is targeted to be in place until February 7th. Catholic School Superintendent Father Va will meet with school administrators this week to assess the situation and will update parents and school communities accordingly. Due to an unprecedented demand for COVID testing, Public Health has once again revised its guidelines on who should get tested. Although additional test kits have been ordered, Guam is competing with the rest of the country. Public Health PIO Janela Carrera said on Friday that only about 23,000 test kits are left. We should note that on average, Public Health is conducting a little over 2,000 tests per day. Now, if there's only 23,000 test kits left, that would mean Public Health can only test for roughly 11 more days. According to the revised testing guidelines, only those who are experiencing symptoms should be tested, or if you're considered a high-risk close contact, such as being 65 years of age or older, pregnant or unvaccinated or partially vaccinated with an underlying health condition. Public Health has no timeline on when their supply of new test kits will arrive. The Philippine government announced Friday that fully vaccinated international travelers will be allowed entry if they are fully vaccinated within 48 hours of arrival. Foreigners and returning overseas Filipinos will also no longer be required to undergo facility-based quarantine, according to a spokesperson for Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte. The Philippines also suspended its red, yellow, green COVID risk classifications for foreign countries and territories. Airlines will be mandated to require foreigners traveling to Manila to present proof of full vaccination prior to boarding. Passengers will be required to self-monitor for any symptoms for 7 days. Get ready to pay more for power starting tomorrow, February 1st. The increase follows the PUC approval last week to raise a fuel surcharge known as the LEAC by 1% per kilowatt hour to cover a portion of GPA's current $20.6 million in under-recovered fuel costs. The average residential power bill will go up by about $9.30 a month, again starting tomorrow. Senators passed several bills during session late Friday. Among the bills passed was Bill 230. The local war claims measure would adopt the implementation plan for World War II reparations. $10 million from the general fund has been identified to pay the claims. The implementation plan also establishes an adjudication committee that will decide which claims are to be paid out, which will then be administered by the Department of Administration. The first payouts will be for the estimated 700 claimants who failed to meet the federal war reparations deadline. Then the descendants of those who died before the deadline will be paid. Senator Joanne Brown was the only senator who voted against its passage, while Vice Speaker Tina Munoz-Barnes and Senator Talina Nelson were absent and excused. More senators and the Republican Party of Guam weighing in on Vice Speaker Tina Munoz-Barnes' 6-month absence from the 36th Guam legislature. Here's more.
I'm hoping at some point she'll make an affirmative decision if she's able to come back, if that's her intention. Or is she planning on stepping down because, her family obligations?
Minority Senator Joanne Brown, the latest legislator seeking clarity on Vice Speaker Tina Munoz-Barnes' extended absence from the session floor. Vice Speaker Barnes has been away from Guam since last July. Sources telling us she left island to support an immediate family member seeking medical care and was then involved in a car crash in Arizona in September. Barnes told KUAM she's been teleworking, but Senator Telo Taitagui raised her eyebrows, saying Barnes has been AWOL from public hearings. And the latest twist, the Republican Party of Guam coming out with a message of support for the Vice Speaker, reading in part, quote, "There's a time and place for a healthy debate on issues and politics, but that time should never collide with the timeline of when one is facing a medical emergency recovery." Minority Leader Senator Chris Duenas telling The Link this morning the issue is a sensitive subject to be discussed with care.
This discussion is not off limits. It's the tone and tenor of the discussion that I think is important.
But Senator Brown said the seriousness of the subject warrants more discussion, especially from the Vice Speaker, who declined an interview with KUAM.
But I'm sure at some point, because the absence is significantly long, she should come out and make a public determination and let us know, us as colleagues and the people, more importantly, what her plans are.
And what if those plans involve the Vice Speaker resigning from the legislature so she can take care of her family and fully recover? Well, Guam law says if a vacancy occurs in the legislature more than 8 months before the general election, a special election must be held to replace the vacated seat. That means if the Vice Speaker resigned before March 8th, a special election would have to be held. If she stepped down after March 8th, her seat would remain vacant until the next election. For Guam's News Network, Chris Barnett reports. Guam's News Network, Chris Barnett reports.
A bill to give native Chamorro-owned small businesses in Guam and the CNMI an edge in federal contracts will be heard in Congress next month. Congressman Michael St-Nicholas introduced the measure, which adds the new language to current federal law. Here's Nestor Lecanto.
Congressman St-Nicholas's bill is dubbed the Native Pacific Islanders of America Equity Act. It would amend certain statutes, including Section 8A of the Small Business Act, which offers a broad scope of assistance to firms that are at least 51% owned by socially or economically disadvantaged individuals. For example, it currently includes Native Hawaiian and Alaskan-owned firms who benefit from certain set-aside and sole source contracts.
This type of consideration is created for Native peoples as a means of affording them the opportunities that they should be within this country, and as opposed to having Native peoples in conflict with one another over who should avail of this, we should be making as many opportunities available for Native peoples throughout the country. And that should include the Native people of Guam.
Speaking at a briefing for local senators, he said the measure also requires the governor's office to establish a registry of Native Chamorros to determine eligibility.
The establishment of how we recognize the Native Chamorro ancestry is consistent with how we already are doing it in Guam law. We're just going to codify into the Organic Act that the federal government will then be officially recognizing that same process. The adjudication for the management of this registry is also kept entirely local, with the public auditor, our local public auditor, being the one to audit to the registry itself.
St-Nicholas is seeking local legislative support for the bill in the form of a resolution to be sent to his congressional colleagues. For Guam's News Network, I'm Nestor Lecanto.
Former Umatic Mayor Daniel Sanchez was found dead with 20 stab wounds in Rudy Canata's residence in April of last year. On Friday, the road to justice began, where Joyner Sked, one of the two people charged in the murder, appeared before a jury of 12. KUAM's Hannah Devonzo has more.
Opening statements got underway this morning for Joyner Sked. She, along with Rudy Canata, are charged for the murder of former Mayor Daniel Sanchez. They are being tried separately. Sked is represented by attorney Terrence Timblin.
Well, Mr. Canata is not on trial at the moment. His acts are very much part of this case. The evidence will show that Rudy Canata caused the death of Daniel Sanchez with 4 blows from a hammer with an orange handle to the back and side of his head.
Prosecuting the case is Assistant Attorney General Leonardo Rapadas.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we are here today because that woman, Joyner Scott Sked, repeatedly stabbed and killed Daniel Canata Sanchez.
A concerned neighbor, George Uggan, who took the stand today, called the Guam Police Department to conduct a welfare check on Canata, who he hadn't seen in days. The responding officer was Teodoro Perenisan.
As I got closer and closer to that opening in the wall, and noticed that foul odor smell got stronger. Noticed an individual's body laying on the floor.
Okay. What did you do when you saw that?
I was already announcing, calling out for the individual's attention. During also such time, Officer Matt Spit was knocking on the door, was announcing our presence. There was no response from that individual.
Sked, along with Rudy Canata, are charged with murder as a first-degree felony and aggravated assault as a second-degree felony. The charges against Sked also include a special allegation of the use of a deadly weapon in the commission of a felony. The trial will continue on Monday. Joyner Sked is being tried separately from her boyfriend Rudy Canata, who appeared today in Superior Court for a status hearing. He, too, is accused of the murder of former Umatic Mayor Daniel Sanchez. Reporting for Guam's News Network from the Superior Court here in Hagåtña, I'm Hannah Devonzo.
We should note that trial will not continue today, but at a later date. Donovan Ornelas is scheduled to appear in court this afternoon for an ex parte motion. He is accused of the murder of 61-year-old Andrew Castro. Castro, who was wheelchair-bound, was found decapitated at the Vallis Apartments bordering Agate and Santa Rita about a year ago. Ornelas is scheduled to appear before Judge Alberto Tolentino at 2:30 this afternoon. In regional news, CNMI Governor Ralph Torres is standing his ground amid the impending trial in the Senate. Tomas Menglotña reports.
I know that is strictly political, and so therefore what I do, it doesn't change on my priorities here in CNMI.
Governor Ralph Torres maintains his innocence and remains unfazed by his recent impeachment. He says all of his expenditures were by the book and denies all the allegations outlined in the 6 articles of impeachment.
You said that nothing you've done is illegal. Do you believe anything you've done in these charges are perhaps unethical?
I don't think so.
He says lawmakers overreached when they held him in contempt for failing to appear before the legislative committee investigating him. He's moving forward with his lawsuit against the committee.
It is important that we don't set a wrong precedent on the governor's position.
That position up for election this year. Torres responded to his former running mate and sitting Lieutenant Governor Arnold Palacios, who's running for governor. Palacios testified against the governor in the House investigative hearings. Earlier this week, he told KUAM he cringes thinking about the old Torres-Palacios ticket.
I'm not known to be throwing punches, and I'm amazed that he would come out like that.
His political opponents, made up of independent Republicans supporting Lieutenant Governor Palacios and Democrats backing Representative Tina Sablan, ramping up their campaigns before the Senate drafts rules for the impeachment trial.
I'll continue to be the governor until the community says otherwise.
Against the governor in the House investigative hearings. Earlier this week, he told KUAM he cringes thinking about the old Torres-Palacios ticket.
I'm not known to be throwing punches, and I'm amazed that he would come out like that.
His political opponents, made up of independent Republicans supporting Lieutenant Governor Palacios and Democrats backing Representative Tina Sablan, ramping up their campaigns before the Senate drafts rules for the impeachment trial.
I'll continue to be the governor until the community says otherwise.
No NMI justice or judge, in the meantime, will preside over the Senate impeachment trial of Governor Ralph Torres. In a letter to Senate President Jude Hofschneider, all three sitting CNMI Supreme Court justices declined the Senate's request for Chief Justice Alexandro Castro or another designee to preside over the trial of the governor. According to a January 28th letter, it states that unlike the U.S. Constitution, the NMI Constitution does not mandate the involvement of Chief Justice in an impeachment trial. In the absence of specific constitutional authority or directive, it would be inappropriate for the judiciary, a separate branch of government, to concern itself in the internal affairs of another branch. Justice Alexandro Castro, Justice John Manglotnya, and Justice Perry Enos wrote that the NMI Constitution places the power of impeachment in the legislative branch. They added, quote, "We do not view the Senate impeachment trial as comparable to a civil or criminal proceeding. It is a uniquely legislative and political function that does not fall under the purview of the judicial branch under the NMI Constitution." The justices say that with the Constitution essentially silent on the matter, they will not be taking part in the impeachment trial. Quote, "We choose to maintain this balance," they concluded. Tech Center Guam has been awarded a one-year, $250,000 local government contract to create a drone program for the Guam Fire Department and GovGuam. The company will provide GovGuam an augmented drone fleet as GFD builds its drone capacity. Eventually, the program will expand to include DPW, Guam EPA, and GPD. The program will help to enhance search and rescue capabilities of first responders. About 15 GFD workers and partnering agencies will undergo training to obtain a remote pilot certification from the FAA. Eligible University of Guam students are urged to apply for the UOG CARES Emergency Grant. The program assists students in need during the pandemic. You must be a full-time or part-time student enrolled between March 13th of 2020 to current and demonstrate need and financial hardship. Eligible students could receive amounts of up to $700 this semester. Applications will be accepted until 5 p.m. on Friday, February 25th, or until all funds have been awarded. To apply and for more information, visit url.uog.edu/caresgrant2022. With your news in Chamorro, here is Kin Concepcion.
Buenos Napades to get soon to be sa morgan ni KUAM News. Presenta ni Familian Mizo gi First Hawaiian Bank. Ajimat sa seri gi egan sabalo ni Kimson Basula gita tinibomban hanum gi funeral 10 gita salampago sa masoda matay tao sa magklasifika na investigasyon matay. I-detective siya gini Division Investigasyon Kriminal gi Departamento Polisia sa siya pago membestiga estina kausa. Kung magwang informasyon mo por este na insidente, por favor agang i GPD Dispatch gi 671-475-156-15-6-47. Mas asunto, i-John Information Center sa ma-report na 40 na tao sa man ma-hospital por COVID-19. Dos gui sa gaya gi ICU na klase na nasisti, 29 sa man mabakuna, sa 11 sa timan mabakuna. Gi Domingo ma-report ni Departamento sa Salud Publiko na 364 nuevo na kausang COVID. Ginin meet 3 na test, 5 analisa gi 29 gi Enero. Marisuto sa man ma-analilisa, sa pumalo siya sa sempre masabmitin ni otro na clinic siya pago na dia. Inumbrong kausang COVID distitutohon niya sa 31 meet 804, 285 mampinino 8 meet 150 na kausa gi active na isolation, sa 23 meet 369 man homelo ginesti na ternut. Esta huli gi 29 gi Enero 132 meet 808 sa man mabakuna kabalas gi populasyon guahan por 5 anyos para hulo na edad. 50 meet 595 sa man madulog ni booster gi man kwalifika disti 29 gi September gi mapos sakan. Yuto mo na sunto gifinut sa moro para pago na Lunes gini KUAM News. Taza West para justicia gi isina mai para tato gi trial niya para impeachment ni Gobernador Ralph Torres. Gikata para Presidente ni Senate Jude Hofschneider, 33 na justicia ni Supreme Court di CNMI sa marinunsya i-requestan ni Senate para si Alexandro Castro para otro ni sinema designa para tato gini na trial para Gobernador. Justicia Alexandro Castro, Justicia John Manglotnya dan Justicia Perry Enos sa matugi na Constitution ni NMI sa naipoded impeachment gwati ramas legislatura. Ilig niya justicia siya na po di Constitution ti mampu sa explica esti ti para ufansano gini na patin trial impeachment. Ilig niya na ma-adject mas para ma-assisti esti na klaseng balansya. Para Guam News Network, Guam si Kin Concepcion. Yasuto ifinut sa moro sa presenta sa ninafatto ni Familian Mizo gi First Hawaiian Bank.
Say hello to the First Hawaiian Bank mobile app. Want a better look at your spending? With MoneyMap, you can automatically create budgets and manage where your money is going. Know when you have a green light or when it's time to slow down. Maybe cook more meals at home this week. Set your goals, track your progress, and find your way to exactly where you want to be with MoneyMap from the First Hawaiian Bank mobile app. It all starts with yes.
Do you feel like you're missing out on something? Make life more rewarding with Pacific Points. Earn and redeem points for bill rebates and free load at IT&E, discounts on fuel at Shell, vouchers at Foodies, and United Mileage Plus miles. You can even pay with Pacific Points at IT&E, Shell, and Foodies. Pacific Points. Do more, get more.
Join Nestor Lecanto for virtual in-depth discussions with the movers and shakers in our community every Wednesday on In Full Zoom. Presented by IT&E and Calvo Enterprises, Inc.
Mariana's Irrigation and Landscape Superstore. Stop on by and visit our showroom today. We offer everyday low prices on all major outdoor power equipment like bush cutter, chainsaw, power washer, generators, and more. Need service, repair, maintenance? Well, check out Guam's best superstore only at Mariana's Irrigation and Landscape, located in Barragata along Army Drive between Submarina and Besta Market. Call 735-7446 for more information. Now shipping to surrounding islands. Mariana's Irrigation and Landscape Superstore.
Pizza Hut stuffed crust is the crust that made crust good, topped and stuffed with over a half pound of cheese. What are you so afraid of? Loving it? Original stuffed crust, only from Pizza Hut. No one out-pizzas the Hut.
Get the job done the right way by getting the right stuff at East West Rental Center. With years of experience helping builders, we definitely got what you need. Call 646-1463 or visit us in Upper Tumon. Open Monday to Saturday from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. and on Sundays from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. KUAM Communication is your go-to source for the biggest national and international sports events. Check out KUAM TV 8 and KUAM TV 11 for the biggest sports specials, championships, and events from every court, track, field, and playing ground. We're bringing you all the action and excitement. Brought to you locally by Mariana's Irrigation and Landscape and Docomo Pacific.
We want to see your football fan love in time for Valentine's Day and the big game on February 14th. KUAM News and KUAM Digital are rounding up and showcasing football lovers all over the island every day before the big game and giving one lucky fan and their loved ones the chance to win the ultimate Game Day Valentine's Bash at home. All you got to do is send an email to promotions@KUAM.com with the subject Love and Football or tag and send a DM to the KUAM News page on Instagram. Make sure to include your name and contact info and your Love and Football story. Each and every submission will be entered to win a Game Day Love Fest at their home on Valentine's Day, including a brand new 65-inch 4K TV from Buddy's Home Furnishings, party platters from participating restaurants delivered by Uno Go, beverages and swag from Heineken and Stoli, sweet treats, roses for your loved ones, and much more. One lucky winner will be announced on the air on February 11th. Some conditions apply. Winner must be a resident of Guam, must be 21 years or older, and must be available to be featured in a live shot from their home on Game Day, Monday, February 14th.
See KUAM.com for complete rules and regulations. Love and Football is presented by Uno Go and Buddy's Home Furnishings. Let us show you why Buddy's is better. Jamaican Grill, Yaman, together we can. Heaven Sent, the essence of all things beautiful. The Bottle Shack, Heineken and Stoli. Enjoy responsibly. And CS Cafe.
The relationship between Guam and Manila, Philippines is undeniable as we share similar cultural traditions, history, and heritage. With generations of Filipinos calling Guam home, KUAM presents a monthly look at the capital city featuring in-depth and engaging interviews on everything from medical tourism to new business and government leaders. Veteran newscaster Nestor Lecanto delivers Beyond Our Borders. This special program is brought to you by KFC and the Medical City, where patients are partners.
All right, everybody, welcome to The Link. It is a Monday. It is a Conference Championship Monday, but you know, a lot of NFL teams are named after birds, Chris. And that very apropos.
Yeah, that's right. Yep, that's sure. I mean, I don't know if we've got any NFL teams, called the Kakaks or anything like that, but there's no shortage of bird teams in the NFL. None of them made it this far in the playoffs, OJ.
Well, at the collegiate football level, there are several teams named after fighting chickens.
Yeah, that's
South
right.
Carolina, of course, has the Gamecocks, and there are a couple other teams like that.
Might
but-
be a little hot right now to name any of our teams after fighting chickens. Though.
There you go. But, we actually told you, everybody, at the beginning of the show that we'd be talking to our dear friend Arlene Steffi and another friend of the show, Olympia Terrell, are joining us now in the KOM News Zoom room. And we are talking about bird watching generated a huge response. Elizabeth Agigi, who lives in Eva Beach, Hawaii, ladies, was saying she actually does bird watching out in the Aloha State, too. So we'll get into the whole mechanics of the event and everything like that. But, Hafaday and good morning to you both. And I want to say that's either one of the coolest video virtual backgrounds I've ever seen, or you're actually joining us like from the marsh.
Actually, let me show you what exactly it is.
That is lovely.
Okay, so what that is I'm standing on the porch of our property at Aching Bay Marina, and that is the Aching Bay Marina Cove with a channel that goes out into the Moleso Bay. And we've been doing some restorative work down there for our renters. And while I was working one day, I thought, you know what? That would be a great background for Zoom. And there I am.
Well, you took me back because I grew up a little bit on Kaneni Road in Moleso. That's right across the street
Did you?
from, and it just reminds me there used to be like an Achang Bay Red Rice little restaurant, right? And that, so I was actually a kid when this place, people would go there and do activities that property at. Awesome.
Very nice. Yeah, Kaneni Road ends across the street from the property.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know you lived down there. Good for you.
Yeah, and then I know that there's a lot of turtles around that area, right?
I've never seen turtles, but it's a preserve.
Yeah.
And so everything, the fish tend to come in, the young fish come in there and into the bay or into the cove, but it's just a beautiful place. You should see the sunsets down there. Yeah. The sunrise down there looks like sunsets in the west. It's incredible.
How's the birding action down there, though, R?
There is a colony or a group of collared doves, and the herons come around, but I haven't seen much else.
I'm pretty sure there might be a chicken or two.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of chickens.
You could probably count on that, and equally delightful is not a virtual background, but a very, very lovely Olympia. I want to say like a home studio or just a workspace. That's a nice shade of teal behind you, and I'm looking. There's some nice pieces of art on the wall, and that nice window overlay. And is that a crossword puzzle book off your left shoulder?
No. Well, this is my office at UOG, and I'm so lucky to have this office. And I'm surrounded by birds. Bird poster over here, which is for the event, and that is not a crossword puzzle. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, like right on the thing. It looked like possibly. My eyesight is so bad these days.
It is a book about turtles.
Okay. Oh, so we do have a turtle sighting on the show. Very good. So Chris was right.
Yes, that we helped do. We translated it into Tomorrow. I didn't do that, but I had that done, and it was NOAA they had them here when one of our charter days, and I went, oh my God, this book is so cool, and I think it was in Samoan. And I went, we need this in Chamorro. And so made that happen, and that was really fun to do.
Okay, well, the art and the craft and the passion of bird watching and everything like that. Some people may have said, we were talking about it earlier in the show, it used to be a really, really thriving, event and activity to do like in the States and locally, like in the 70s and 80s. But for some people, like Arlene, it never actually stopped. And this is something that you have done, you have advocated for, you have shared your passion with this, and now with this event, you're actually educating a lot of people of why this is a wonderful thing to get into. And Guam is the perfect environment for this, right?
Actually, we're very fortunate because we're on that flyway. There are 4 flyways that start from the Arctic tundra, where all the birds, or many of the birds, go to breed. And so when they winter, they come down from that Arctic tundra, and there are 4 flyways that come in from North America all the way down to Australia. So we are on that Pacific flyway, Pacific coast, and some birds will pass through, some birds will stop through, and whether you're in the Pacific or the Central or the Mississippi or the Antarctic, or no, what is it? Atlantic, rather, you could see these birds fly through. Unfortunately, with us, the dispersal is not as numerous as they are over the mainland. So we don't see these large flocks of birds. However, around May sometime, you will see the shearwaters, like about a mile outside of Jeff Pirates Cove along the coast there in the Pacific Ocean as they go back. And that's something that I am aiming to cover this coming May.
Now, I know a lot of people see bird watching as a recreational activity. Some people use it as a means by which they can help, like the government, maybe the Department of Agriculture, and just say, hey, I spotted a couple species that I haven't seen before. Here's my log file. Here's a couple illustrations I may have done. If it helps you at all, here you go. But Olympia, what purpose does bird watching serve, like on Guam? I know it's incredibly relaxing and therapeutic, but if for people that want to get into it or may have never tried it, this is a very worthwhile activity. And how can they use this for good in our community?
Well, what bird watching does is get you out in nature. And then once you're out in nature, your whole brain changes. You're not on your computer, you're not on your phone, you're not in a store, you're out in nature, of which we are a part of. And so it's so important to have a reason to be out there. And bird watching is one of them. Hiking is another. And I know living on Guam, I've lived on Guam for over 30 years. I really miss the birds. And when I woke up one morning in September and went, we need to have a migratory bird celebration here because people can see birds. And I'm really sad for the young generations on Guam that have grown up without having birds around them. That they might not, and that's why we're having a migratory bird celebration on Guam and not, birds on Guam, because we thought people might not come if they're going to say, there's no birds on Guam. We know there's no birds.
So what makes the migratory bird celebration so distinct from maybe some people who maybe people like myself and maybe naively think, okay, it's a bird watching event. That's pretty cool. I can sit down, and I can jot down some notes and everything. What about the migratory essence of this makes it so distinct?
Well, I just find migratory birds amazing because they fly such distances, and birds are so tiny and fragile. They look so tiny and fragile, which they are, but they can withstand this incredible migration of thousands of miles. And they do island hop down. As Arlene said, we're on the Pacific Flyway, the Asian Pacific Flyway. And then there are other flyways that go closer towards India, right? And so they come down through Hokkaido, through Japan, maybe Taiwan, and then they end up in Guam. And what's interesting, what I've learned from Martin Kastner, who is a member of the Marianas Audubon Society, is that when they come, like the plovers, for example, when they come to Guam, they'll go right to, if they were coming to your yard last year, they'll go to your yard again this year. Because even though they're flying all that distance, they seem to hone into that area. So Jeff's, we call it Jeff's Plover's Cove for the event. So those birds are probably coming every year back to Jeff's. So it's just fascinating.
That is amazing. I'm sorry,
What's
Olympia. So just to put it into perspective for everybody watching right now, if you took a commercial airline flight from Japan, that's a 3.5-hour flight on a 747, a device that was engineered for speed. And you're talking about birds making that trip, and they're doing this basically transcontinentally. I mean, there's no branch or twig that they can kind of take a break on and relax when you're out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean and everything like that. They make that trip themselves. That is phenomenal.
Well, they do stop along the way. And the reason that those flyways exist is that, like us, unless it's a direct flight, and some do make those direct flights, others will stop along the way and feed, and then others die. It is a very dangerous trek for many of them. We lose a lot of birds during the migration. It's very arduous for them.
Which makes the sighting of specific species of birds, I would assume, ladies, all that more valuable. If you see it, it's like these are the ones who survived the trip, and now they've come to Guam and at least maybe even temporarily made Guam their home, right? Like, I guess there is a point to be made. When they come to Guam, do they stay here, or is this kind of like a refueling stop, for lack of a better term?
They winter here.
Okay. Oh, so it is a pure migratory pattern. Like they come here and then they recharge and then they may go back, or they go somewhere else.
Now, once in a while, and this is where, I'd like to make a distinction too, because you say bird watcher. I am not a bird watcher.
Okay.
Now, I don't know how Olympia defines herself, but she has a very different approach to being around the birds too. And she is a hiker. I'm not a hiker. The only thing that will drag me up into the hills is if there is a rare bird up there that someone has sighted and I have the possibility of photographing that bird. Otherwise, not interested in hiking to the falls or anything like that. So there's a distinction between that, and a birder and a bird watcher are not the same thing. They have a very common and purpose, and they are synonymous in some people. And some people don't consider themselves bird watchers, but birders, or maybe both, a little bit of both. I don't sit on my patio or at Achang Bay or anywhere watching birds. I won't do that. I will, though, carry my camera and go somewhere to photograph a bird.
Well, that's good to know. And may I ask, because Olympia, you made a very, very good point that this young generation, maybe like millennials and Gen Zers, as they're called, they spend so much time on screens, and attention spans are demonstrably short these days and everything like that. But if they want to get into this wonderful activity and maybe kind of like bring like the online environment and what they know and everything, how can they kind of maybe incorporate digital technology and the social media component to say like, hey, this is a wonderful activity, I've met new people, and then I'm also like sharing it, for the world?
Well, there is an app called eBird that you can download on your phone.
Makes
and then
perfect
if you see a bird, or if you can photograph a bird maybe you've never seen before, you can put it on eBird and people can ID it for you, or you can just go through and look like you're going to be going to, let's say you're going to go to Saipan, which they still have birds, lots of birds there. That's a great place to go, and you can go to eBird and you can look at what you would probably be seeing there, so you can prepare yourself before you get there. So when you see a bird, you know, oh, that's a flycatcher, or oh, that's a chichirica, or yeah.
Yeah, and that's something that's important. There are many other apps that you can use. Merlin is one of them. Merlin is actually associated with eBird, but those would be the birds that are specific to a region. So you would pick, because you're not going to see the American bald eagle here. So you would download a bunch of photographs of birds that are known to be in a region. Now, once in a while, you'll get a vagrant, someone who's been thrown off course, maybe caught up in a typhoon or something, or for some reason his natural instinct was derailed along the way. We don't know what causes it really, but they get thrown off course and then they'll show up, which is not common. Now, in the last year, as a birder, I go out looking for birds. I don't watch them. So
Gotcha.
I'll go out to see what birds have arrived on Guam, and I go to 38 different spots on a regular basis. Depending on what I find on those spots determines how quickly I go through. So I have two routes. I have the eastern route and then the southern route. And when I take that loop in the south, I start from Petey, of course, and work my way around and come back home, and then if I take the Eastern, then I start in Piri and go around and come back through Manila and Jalambago. But it's really, there's no way to blow through that loop in one day. I am often stuck at one of the sites along the way, and then I will go back the next time and continue. And
Well, certainly that's not time wasted.
No, it's not. But I mean, there are days that are unproductive, and I don't look at it in the sense that I'm only going out to look for birds that have not been sighted before. So for me, as a birder, when I take pictures of birds, I'm interested in the detail of a bird. So I'll spend time photographing the collared dove, which used to be called the Philippine turtle dove, you know, I mean, and that's another thing about birding is that the names change because the bird god names, the bird gods change these names. And so you have to be constantly on top of it. One day I'm calling it the turtle dove. Next time I'm calling it a collared dove. And so it's a very progressive science in its own way, but it's estimated that 50,000 Americans are bird watchers. That's an incredible number of people.
Yeah, there is a phenomenal community, in this space, and it's not just a generational thing, and it's not just you have to, let's say, cut your teeth over a certain number of decades to do this. And all are welcome, I guess, is the point, right?
Well, yeah, and like Olympia said, different people do it in different degrees and for different reasons. For me, I started being a birder as a child, and I think I've shared that with you, but to be a photographer, a bird photographer, is a totally different element for me. I developed into being a bird photographer, and the reason I did it is because that poster that's behind Olympia is not the poster that caught me. It's a poster that Doug Pratt did for the Department of Agriculture. And when I saw that poster, I said, wait a minute, who's this guy? Who did these pictures? And I asked Tino Uggan at the time when...
Oh, there you go. Thank you, Olympia. She's got that dog.
And there
tremendous.
are two posters. One is the
There's
birds. Four, yeah, okay. But what I'm saying is the one that caught me was the endemic birds. And so I asked to contact Doug Pratt, and he has become my mentor. Doug has become my mentor with birds, and I supply him the photographs that he uses for his new update of his book. I don't know if you can see this. You can't see it.
Hold it in front of your face.
That's this one, sir.
No.
Yeah, we got that. We got that picture. We'll put it up for you. Yeah.
Okay.
And Dr. Pratt, of course, a good friend of this show and everything like that. Very accomplished person.
I provide him with photos, the detailed photos. Now, what fascinates me about the birds are their behavior, and I'm just amazed at the way they've been created. The plumage is what attracts me, and the eyes. I'm an eye person. When I talk to you, I'm looking at you. I am not looking over here and talking to you. And so
I've been on the receiving end a couple of those lectures, I must say, and they are very, very effective.
Yeah, so when I'm out with the birds, my camera lens, my eye is focused on their eye, and I'm watching what they're doing, and I can almost, after a few minutes, I can almost interpret exactly how they're going to move. And that's a birder. I can tell you, I know exactly when they're going to stretch because I watched them so intently that I know that movement. I know that nuance when they're going to do, whether they're going to look at something to eat or they're going to stretch their wings. It just obsesses me.
And what the two maybe characteristics that stand out to me about that were probably a lot of experience and a lot of patience.
Oh, you need patience, even if you're bird watching.
Yeah. Okay, so Olympia, I love that point that R made because, as a very accomplished, photographer, a photojournalist as she's been for, her distinguished career and everything, do you find traditional people who are into photography taking up this as like a little bit of maybe a side hobby and everything like that? Because there are some distinct challenges when it comes to shooting birds. Because, some people shoot food, some people shoot, people, some people shoot landscapes and everything. Birds are completely their own thing.
I think nature photography is one of the most difficult.
Thank you.
Because you just have to be there and capture the moment, and you have no idea what moment's going to happen, you know, before your eyes. And so I really take my hat off, if I was wearing one, to nature photographers, birds especially, because they can fly away. You know, but nature photographers all over the world, because they bring us to places we can't go. So thank you, Arlene, for bringing people to bird nests, you know, watching baby birds and moms coming to feed them and dads coming to feed them. I mean, it's amazing. Birds are amazing, and they don't go to the store. And that's another reason why this migratory bird celebration is so important, because it highlights how we need to keep our oceans, our beaches clean for our avian visitors, because they need a clean place to come and eat.
Yeah. Now, you know, there's something important that Olympia said that I find very interesting. Although Guam does not have many endemic birds, and many of our endemic birds have become extinct in the wild, and they're not in captivity. We have two, the sea that's in captivity, but not in the wild, extinct in the wild. We have the kolko that is in a breeding program, and then they release them into the wild. But even in places like Saipan, the Northern Marianas, the children are not there for, I mean, she said, you know, you said that you feel sorry for our children here because they don't get to see these birds. But honestly, in Saipan, it is not a big deal either. And neither is it in Tanina. It's almost like it's there, and they're not even aware that it's there. You know what I mean? Now,
hopefully this effort will change that.
Hopefully awareness will. The unfortunate part is that there's ethics involved in birding that are not involved, and they are involved in bird watching, but bird watchers can stand back at a distance. A birder has to get close. And so these birds in their natural environment, we have to be cautious not to create pressure on them, not to make them, not to disturb them, and not to flush them, which means you have to determine just exactly how close you can get their comfort zone. And if you see that they're starting to twitch, back off. Now, some people are not conscious of that. Because they want to get close, right? They want to see it. There's so much involved in it that's why, like in Saipan, Tenia, and Luta, you could see the birds. They're up on the line. You can see them. They're up on the wire, rather. And so they're always there. They're in the trees. You can hear them. So they're around you so much that you don't feel this compulsion to get close to them. When you're dealing with the migrants, that especially down at Jeff's, the people that go to Jeff's to eat or to be on the beach, they're actually not cognizant of the birds that are there. I've watched this many times. They want to go out into the ocean. They want to see what's on the shoreline, and the birds will flush. Now, I'm not saying that they shouldn't do that, because you don't want to deter or tell people, oh no, you can't go out on the beach. You don't ever want to go to that extent. You know, I'm not a tree hugger, but I don't like deforesting trees. You know, I mean, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Sure. So we have to find a balance, and nature is there for our enjoyment. Everything was created for our enjoyment. So we do have a responsibility, like Olympia said, to make sure that we're protecting them. So the environment, but also our conduct. It's critical. Sure. Our conduct is critical toward the survival. If we stress these birds out, we won't have any of them. You know, I mean, their whole purpose for being here is to eat enough fat to be able to sustain them on that return flight of the migration.
Now, if I may offer like regional perspective, our Tomas Manglotnia is watching this interview with great interest. He's from Luta originally, and he covers CNMI events for us. Fantastic reporter. He actually says there is bird watching, especially on Rota. There's a little bit of preservation and education campaigns there. So apparently the community there, they are aware of it. According to Tomas, they do exist, but maybe this effort and this event that you fine folks are doing and everything like that can join the communities and maybe have more collaborative. Oh, yes, ma'am. Yes, Olympia, please.
I want to say the bird sanctuary in Luta is one of my most favorite places in the world.
There you go.
Because I can sit there for hours on that cliff and just watch the birds, and they'll check you out too. If you're sitting there, they'll come down and go, "What are you doing?" and look at you.
You're
and
in their turn.
Do another pass. It's just amazing, but it's really one of my most favorite. It's so beautiful and incredible what you get to see. And so thank you to the people of Luta for making that available for us.
And if I may, we've got some comments now I'd like to read, if I may, ladies. Elizabeth Agigi, again, she lives in Eva Beach, Hawaii, and she said, obviously the community out in Hawaii with birding and bird watching, very active. Liz says, we have a lot of finches here. I see certain birds, she writes, that come in pairs. She's also said she spotted a full yellow parrot by itself, like on its lonesome. She also says the nenny goose, which is endangered.
Yep.
And Chamarita Ray just said, like, also, how does this factor in with those who would prey upon the birds, like the brown tree snakes and what have you? And I guess that's what Olympia was saying is, with nature, you never know what you're going to see. You may have this amazing shot of a bird just doing its own thing in its own environment and everything. All of a sudden, it's somebody's lunch. And I say all the time, from nature photography, and I love how you brought that point up, Olympia. Everybody thinks killer whales are the coolest thing in nature until they start tossing the baby seals out past over the surf, and then they're the biggest jerks in nature.
Okay, so that's where it gets back to the difference between not interfering. Okay, now. I got a video from somebody the other day. They were down at the Paseo, and a cat fledgling had fallen out of the nest, and somebody was there giving it water. And yeah, right, that's our first wildlife booklet. And I'm going to be handing some of that out at the workshop, by the way. It's a first come first serve because we published it and we're running out. But anyway. They were giving it water and wanted to feed it some food. And that's the first thing you don't do. You do not feed these wild animals. You just leave them alone. But it's our tendency as humans to want to interact with them. Pick up a bird that fell. No, don't pick up a bird that fell. And don't take it to the Department of Agriculture because they're not in the business of nurturing these things back. Leave it alone because the mother will come down and feed it. And it's a survival thing. So if it can't, there's a reason why it fell out of that nest. Now, I'll share a story. Speaking of Luta, I want to say Hafade everybody in Luta, but the AGA project in Luta, I think is one of the greatest projects that we have. The Coco here, very similarly. But with the AGA project, they had two Micronesias, the crows. One of them was pushed, maybe both of them pushed out of the nest. In one instance, it was because the mother had died and the father could not forage for two hatchlings. So one of them had to go. Now, the one thing that I learned as a birder is that the parent, that color when you see a chick open its mouth in the nest, they open their mouth wide open, and the color is so bright and robust, and you're wondering, why can't I hear any sound? Well, the color of the inside of the chick's mouth indicates to the parent who is the most likely to thrive. And that, because I used to think, come on, feed the other guys. But they have a natural instinct to feed the one who has the greatest opportunity to survive. And so in the case of the AGA, one fell out, the Ceza, and the other one was the same. They were both orphans, and they were raised, and they were released into the wild. Unfortunately, they died within a day apart, and they were so close. I have some very intimate pictures of both of these AGA on the trees, just, feeding each other. They were both female, but they were just close friends. And we tend to transpose our human emotions onto these birds or wildlife in general.
Okay.
Because there is that caring, there is that association and gregarious nature of even these animals. So there's so much to learn, and I'm happy to hear that in Luta that they do encourage the children,
Absolutely.
or that there is bird watching. I know there's birders on Luta. I have fought to fly there recently because there's a bird there that I have not photographed, but I helping to take care of my mom and decided maybe I should.
Well, we'll tell you what, ladies, we got to wrap up because we're going to talk about some HR topics relative to Guam's ongoing battle with COVID right now. But I'd like to use maybe Olympia, if I may, I'd like to give you the last word and maybe use another nature analogy. We are literally just at the tip of the iceberg when it comes to this. So how can people join the event, get involved and participate? Because this is so worthwhile.
Okay, all right. So it's at Jeff's Plover's Cove, which is also known as Jeff's Pirates Cove, on February 5th. So this coming Saturday. Activities will be from 8 to noon. And Arlene's photography workshop will start at 8 and go till 10. At 10 o'clock, we're going to be having the welcoming remarks from President of the university, Dr. Kreis. Then we are going to have Chamorro Legends, a gathering of stories, which was written by Terry Paris. She's going to read her Coco and Halikay legend. We're going to have a Moneybird legend story from Harley Educhal, who's here at UOG. We're going to have a premiere celebrating birds dance performance by Luna Shills. And then we're going to have bird stories of Guam before the brown tree snakes ate them. And Dr. Robert Underwood is going to be one of the Manamco who's going to be telling stories about that.
There you go.
So all they have to do is show up at 8 o'clock. If you want to see if you want to take part in the workshop, come at 8. And then at 10 o'clock, all the people who will be there will include the Marianas Audubon Society, UOG Press will be there with their books, the Center for Island Sustainability, UOG Sea Grant, the Guam Bus. They have their beautiful bird flashcards, and you can learn tomorrow, and you can learn the names of the birds. And UOG Center for Island Sustainability, did I say that?
Yep.
And Department of Ag Forestry will be there. There will be a cuckoo bird there with Department of Ag, DAR, and the Guam Beekeepers Association will be there.
And you know what? You get to hang out in beautiful Ipan on a Saturday, and it doesn't get much better than that.
Exactly. And between 8 and noon, Jeff is going to donate 10% of the food proceeds from the food to the Marianas Audubon Society.
Well
so
done.
if you ever wanted to find out more about birds, this is your chance.
All right.
February 5th.
All right.
Jeff's Pirates Cove.
Well, thank you so much, ladies. Always a pleasure. Thank you for putting on this event, Olympia. Arlene, thank you so much, and we wish you both good health and have a wonderful day.
Thank you. And one more thing, we're also celebrating the 70th anniversary of the University of Guam and the 50th anniversary of UOG Guam's land grant status. So come down and learn about that as well.
All right, fantastic. Ladies, have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.
Adios,
Thank
everybody.
you.
All right, that's that. 7:39, Monday, January 31st, 2022. Let's keep it in the KUAM News Link Zoom room where we have the president of the Society of Human Resource Managers, Guam chapter, attorney Mike Pangilinan, joining us now. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Chris.
How you doing this morning?
Morning, Jason.
Morning, Mike.
Good. How are you?
Well,
We're doing all right.
We're doing okay. We were just trying to make sense of the latest guidance flow chart. I don't know if you had seen this latest flow chart to come out of. This is out of public health, but I guess we can kind of start. And I know you got some stuff to talk about, Mike. But is there any, or just I guess your read on, all these different guidances that require people who aren't necessarily positive for the virus to take time off from work, right? So, as recently as like last week, if you're a close contact of a known positive for COVID-19, then you would have to, basically stay home from work for 5 days. It used to be longer, but I was talking to some people who work in the private sector, and they were basically saying like, oh, they finished out their sick leave like the second time they got, had to isolate or quarantine. So is that on the is that weight on the employee when these types of instances come up?
Yeah. So if you as an employee, if you have, if you're sick, if you have some kind of medical issue, and that could include obviously COVID, you have employers that offer sick leave, will allow employees to take their sick leave time. But if they don't offer sick leave, there is a requirement that there's something called the Family Medical Leave Act, where if you have a medical issue, you're entitled to unpaid leave, a certain amount of unpaid leave per year. And so that's something that most employees are entitled to. I mean, it does apply to businesses. You have to have at least 20 employees or more, but most businesses, have to follow that. So you would be entitled to unpaid leave if you've exhausted all of your sick leave.
How much leave does the FMLA allow?
Yeah, so you get 12 weeks per year. So you have to have worked for the company for a while. It can't be a brand new employee, but if you've worked for the company for 12 months at least, then you're entitled to 12 weeks of unpaid leave annually.
Unpaid leave, so that basically means you're going to be out for a long time. You're not going to get paid for it, but you're also not going to get fired.
That's right. Yeah, and like I said, most companies though do offer sick leave, right? So you definitely got some time. Most of the time, you're going to have some availability of paid leave. But even if you don't, at least your job is going to be secured for an extended period. And it doesn't have to be all at once. I mean, you can take it gradually. So if you need, a little bit of the unpaid leave, need a week, but you don't need, more than that. You can, it saves up, so you get the full 12 annually.
Is that what you're hearing from a lot of the human resources manager with SHRM, that their employees are using the FMLA?
Yeah, there are employees that are using the FMLA for COVID-related illness, but most of I haven't heard any serious issues arising with that, that causing really any problems. I think the problems that employers are having more and more now is that they're just losing their workforce because people have to either quarantine or they're out sick. Most of the time, it's not just that they have to quarantine, but that they actually have either they tested positive or they have symptoms. And even if they test, they have symptoms, but they can't get a test right away, they still have to be careful, right? And so the most important thing for employers is to protect the safety of their workplace. Mm-hmm. So even if they're not required to keep people out of the workplace, it's still in their interest as their employer. They have an obligation to everyone, to their customers and to their employees. So it's the best practice is to have the employees stay home. But that's a problem, especially for the larger employees like the hotels, that if you have a lot of people that are out, for legitimate reason, they're out because they're being careful, that does kind of make it hard kind of to operate all your venues.
And so what about this COVID law update briefing? Can we kind of go into what will be discussed?
Yeah, so we have the SHRM group, the Society for Human Resource Management, is, it's an HR organization that just, supports the HR profession, right? So we actually have monthly briefings. Yeah. And so each month, not every month, there are a month or two where we have different events, so we don't always hold this, but we call it a breakfast briefing. And it's about a 90-minute session in the morning, most of the time once a month, and on different topics. And so this is going to be the first of our breakfast briefings for 2022. We didn't have one in January, but we usually start that off in February. And so we thought that, the main topic on people's minds is COVID. And just because there's so many changes all the time, there's federal mandates and then there's local mandates, and then the local mandates change. And they've evolved so much over the last couple of years that I think it's just, in people's minds, everyone's sort of used to the routine of complying with certain things, right? Everyone always gets their temperature when they walk into a place and they all sign the log sheet. But we don't really necessarily think about, okay, what does the law actually require? Yep. And what does the current law require? Because it may be different from what it was required last month. And so what we wanted to do was just give an update and just kind of talk about what's actually the current state of the law and what's required now, and then what is required locally, what, if anything, is required on the federal side, and then just sort of how can employers make sure that they're in compliance. And that's, so that's, we thought that would be the nice way to start 2022 with that topic. But the topics change throughout the year, and so we'll have a monthly briefing in March and April also.
So what is the current requirement for the private sector? Do they all have to be fully vaccinated in order to work? I'm lost here.
Interesting. There is no the vaccination requirements applies to what's called covered establishments, and so those are going to be establishments that are mainly restaurants, bars, theaters, environments where mask wearing has to be compromised to some degree, because you have to take the mask off when you eat and drink, or at sporting events, the athletes can't wear the mask during certain types of sports, and so there's it's a fairly long list of covered establishments, but it's mostly restaurants, bars, theaters, sporting events, and gyms, dance studios. Right, that's another big one. But those are the businesses where vaccination of employees is required and customers entering the establishment is required. But there's a lot of there's exceptions to that, right? So it's not really, you call it a vaccine mandate, but it's really an alternate. It's either vaccination or weekly COVID test.
Right.
So that's for the employees, right? So employees of these establishments don't absolutely have to be vaccinated. They can opt to be tested once a week.
What about those who have an exemption? Because we saw the guidance or circular from the Department of Administration that initially, right, the exemptions requests would go through public health, but then it was changed to government agency heads, where government employees.
So I find that to be a little bit. I think it creates a little bit of a problem, the fact that that's always part of the guidance, because there's the testing option, right? So the exemption exists under the law. That all agencies, federal and local, have to abide by the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, and Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. And so the ADA requires that you don't discriminate against someone in the workplace or anywhere because of a disability. And so that allows for a disability exemption, right? So if you have, for some reason, you have a medical condition where you can't be vaccinated, then you're entitled to be accommodated, or at least the business has to try to accommodate you. Same with Civil Rights Act, that's the religious exemption, where if you have a sincerely held religious belief, and that prevents you from being vaccinated, you're entitled to be accommodated if the business can accommodate you. But the way that the covered establishment vaccination requirement works is that if you don't want to be vaccinated, for whatever reason, you can get tested, and that they're required to allow you to be tested weekly. So you can present your exemption request if you have a medical condition or religious belief. But the way that the government's regulations work is that the business, you can consider those exemptions and determine whether you can accommodate the person. But the law allows you to just opt for the weekly testing. So it kind of simplifies it so that it makes the exemption request kind of less relevant on the local side.
Yeah.
Because and I say that because I know we're going to talk a little bit about the federal mandates, but the local mandates has that option. So it's not as significant because businesses don't necessarily have to worry too much about that, because they can just say, well, okay, then just submit a negative COVID test. You don't have to get vaccinated, and that's, but I think, so for the purposes of the regulation, I don't think it's that significant of an issue on the exemptions. But if businesses want to impose a stricter vaccination requirement, like businesses, the regulation is just the legal requirement. Businesses have to impose that if they're a covered establishment. But businesses can impose a much more stringent vaccination requirement if they want. That's it's up to them. Yeah. So if, let's say you didn't want to allow the testing option, you're a business that wants to impose a vaccine mandate, and you don't want to have any option about testing, you just want to make it a mandate. Mm-hmm. Okay, then the exemption requests become a little bit more significant, because you do have to honor those, or you have to entertain them and determine whether you can reasonably accommodate someone claiming a medical disability or sincerely held religious belief. And that's, that kind of gets in, I don't know if you want to go too far into this, but the way to accommodate it, just depends on the circumstances, depends on the nature of your business and whether you can still safely operate and accommodate that individual. But you have to go case by case, and you have to look at each individual situation because each employee situation may be different.
Yeah, we heard that there was a backup with the exemptions at the AG's office, and I kind of wonder if they were just like, just threw up their hands and threw it back down to the supervisor level. But Mike, is that the accommodation then? Is the negative weekly testing?
Well, it's not really an accommodation. It's just, I think that was built into the regulation because they probably knew there was going to be a lot of requests for exemptions. And this is one way of kind of avoiding the accommodation issue. You don't really need to get into the accommodation issue because you can just, in other words, if someone asks for an accommodation, they make a request for a medical or a religious exemption, you could just say, okay, we understand you don't want to be vaccinated, and just go ahead and accept it and say, okay, so we'll consider you to be in the group that's not being vaccinated. You'll be in the testing group.
Right.
So that's one. It makes the analysis a lot simpler.
But what about these private companies that can't afford to get, test kits? And we've got the shortage of test kits. We've seen public health say that the only people that should be going to
GovGuam.
Going to get tested are people who are symptomatic.
Or GovGuam workers who require the negative weekly test. But I didn't see anything in there about the private sector.
Right. But I'm just saying, like, if there are private sector, if there are businesses that there are employees who are exempt or want to be exempted, they still have to submit, right, to the weekly COVID testing. But where do they go to get tested, especially if they don't have any symptoms?
Yeah, so that is a problem with the shortage of testing. And so, there's, it's hard. If you have to get a weekly test, it's going to be difficult, especially if you're trying to get a free test. I know the clinics, you can always get a test fairly quickly if you're willing to pay for it, right? But if you want a free test, then you're going to have to spend all day in line or make an appointment in maybe 3 days. And also, I know that the guidelines have changed, so they're not necessarily testing you unless you have symptoms, right? But with the government employees, they've got a little bit of they're treated a little bit differently because they've got that requirement, and they have the requirement that, the GovGuam executive branch employees are required to be vaccinated or tested. So there's a separate requirement on them. That's not the covered establishment requirement. That's just the executive order for GovGuam employees. And because of that, they've sort of set up a process. So all GovGuam employees are supposed to be vaccinated, right? Or tested weekly. So they have a process set up where they can go, they have some of the agencies, like the larger agencies, I believe, have the testing on premises. I mean, they have a group of employees that are trained to administer the tests, and the testing can be done because they have a higher volume and because they're all subject to that requirement, and so, but I know it's difficult for private employers, if they're going to comply with that, the covered establishments that are subject to that for employees that have to be tested weekly, there have to be arrangements. It's up to the employer. Employers don't have to pay for it, but they could, they could set up something. Some employers actually that I represent have subjected some of their employees to training. And their employees get an hour or two of training. I think it's from public health. And the employees then are able to administer the test. So then they can get the test. These large employers can get the test and actually give the test to their employees in-house, which saves a lot of time. They still have to submit the tests, the swabs to the laboratory, just like everyone else. So they're going to have to submit it and get the results the same way the rest of the results are made. But at least they can administer the tests more efficiently and with more availability. So that's something that larger employers may want to look into.
But they have to pay for the tests.
No, the tests.
The companies have to pay for the tests.
Yeah, the tests are
under the covered establishments.
Yeah, so the large establishments, if you can set that up, and that's something that I think is would really help the larger companies, is that it's a little bit of an investment because you have to, you pay your employees to get training. I mean, you're paying while they're getting the training, right? But once they got the training, it makes it a lot easier on these employers as far as the testing. But aside from that, I mean, I know that it's hard because of the testing availability, this lack of availability of the tests, it does make it difficult. But for the most part, most employers that are subject to this mandatory vaccination or testing requirement, most of the employees are willing to do it. And it's not. I haven't heard too much in terms of problems with that issue because of the mandatory testing requirement.
Mike, have there been any? Because I remember when these mandates came out, it was like heard so much from people that they were going to sue, that their rights, yada yada yada. Not to demean that, but have there been any successful challenges to any of these mandates? I mean, other than the Supreme Court one, locally, have you heard about anything?
Yeah, so there's not been any locally. I don't know of any actual challenges locally, and I think it's a little bit different. I think locally because maybe it's a little easier to challenge on the federal side because there's that sort of principle, the constitutional principle, where the local governments are supposed to be the ones regulating things like safety in the work, not in the workplace, but just safety generally. And so sometimes they defer to the local legislature and the local governor for those things. So it's probably less ability to challenge on the local side. But on the federal side, yeah, I mean, as we've seen in the last month or so, lots of success on that. And I was on your show in November talking about how innovative this OSHA ETS standard was and how it's unlikely it's going to be overturned. And I don't. The thing is, I don't know whether that means I have egg on my face. Maybe it's just scrambled egg though, because if you look at the decisions, I mean, the decisions are split decisions, right? These Supreme Court decisions that have come out, and they have. It's true that they have blocked these executive orders on presidential orders and the OSHA agency order that imposed a mandatory vaccination and testing, very similar to the GovGuam covered establishment mandate. But you just have to consider that the Supreme Court, it's made up of human beings, right? So they have different views. But it's a split decision. It was 6-3 on that. Wow. And there are 3 justices that agreed with me.
The 3 justices that also have scrambled egg on their face, I guess, right? Yeah. I mean, Mike, it just seems so easy to argue that, I mean, how it seems, right, iffy, where you have someone could say, oh, well, I take the vaccine and it says it's going to do this, but then I could still end up in the hospital. Or even with the weekly testing, I mean, we know about COVID-19 testing, and just because you have that test on that one day of the week, nothing is preventing you from getting COVID like the next day or any other day in between your weekly testing. So, I mean, on its surface, when you look and you kind of had a cursory understanding of how testing works and whatnot, it just kind of seems like it's all being held together very flimsily.
Yeah, I agree. It's but they're doing the best they can, I guess. They have to have some kind of, they have to take some sort of action to try to prevent the spread and try to reduce the number of cases. And this, it's evolving, and that's why these guidance memos, they come out pretty often and they change so much. But it's that you just wait and see for the next one, because there's a whole different sort of theory of what's the best way to protect people. And now they're saying that just because you're exposed doesn't mean you necessarily have to get tested because you don't have symptoms. And the strains all changed in terms of their severity and their transmissibility, and it's so I think that you get the sense that we're sort of figuring it out as we go. But I guess that's the way it is, and I agree that that doesn't really make sense, some of the guidance, because the days seem arbitrary. You count 5 days from the date of your test result or from the date you first had symptoms, and then there's exceptions if you're unvaccinated, and there's another protocol if you've had it before. So I mean, it's a lot to understand, but I think that all you can do is the best you can, right? And that's what I think everyone is doing. That's all we can ask.
Yeah. This kind of sums it up for me. This is the latest public health guidance. I think it's like the 3rd in the last couple of weeks, but it says right there in red, capital letters, subject to change without notice, with about 10 asterisks. So that's where we're at now. Right. Mike, so you're doing this whole COVID law seminar. How do people kind of sign up for it? Where do they go?
Yeah, so we've had so far a pretty good turnout. A lot of people are interested, I think, in this topic. But it's so you just can go to our SHRM website at guam.shrm.org, and that will have a link to registration for the event. It's on February 2nd. That's on Wednesday at 8:30 a.m. It's going to be virtual, and so once you sign up, you'll get a link that will you can click on to bring you into the event. And so we'll talk about kind of what we're talking about now in terms of what's required. Mainly, the focus is going to be what's required. Not so much on too much of a discussion on recommendations for different issues for safety necessarily, unless it's required, because that's kind of my area, is just to tell you what the law allows, what the law doesn't allow, and what the law prohibits, right? So we'll deal with that. We'll talk a little bit about what's happened on the federal side. Largely doesn't affect anyone anymore now that most of them have been blocked, but there are some that still have an impact on the local businesses. And then we'll just talk through sort of the issues on what do you need to do if your employee gets COVID, or if they have symptoms that last. A lot of that's happening a lot more and more now, is people that have COVID and they recover, but they don't fully recover. So how do you handle that?
Yeah, Mike, and when we're talking about this latest flow chart, so the guidance here is if you're fully vaccinated or ineligible for vaccination, and you're a close contact of a positive, you don't feel sick, you can go to work and school. There's no quarantine or testing required for school or work, right? So, I mean, as an employer, I'm looking at this rapidly evolving subject to change without guidance, and I would be concerned because it seems like just a couple weeks ago, the guidance was totally different, right? And I think you would have to get tested if you were a close contact of a known COVID-19 positive. So, I mean, I know it's the government's guidance and it changes, but as an employer, if I was an employer, I would kind of be scratching my head saying, wait a second, a couple weeks ago, this person who could be asymptomatic, could be a spreader of the virus at the workplace, now that they're not required to test or quarantine if they're a close contact of a COVID-19 positive.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that what employers have been doing is just exercising their best judgment, and not necessarily, you look to the guidance for guidance, and you look to the guidance to kind of explain to you what's going to get you into trouble. If you don't follow certain things, then you might get into trouble, because they sort of explain to you what the government is expecting of you as a baseline, as a minimum. But yeah, I mean, you can't really rely on that to dictate your decision making when it comes to workplace safety. You have to do what you feel is right on the safety side. And if there's not enough tests, and so now they can't really require that you get tested because there's no way to get tested.
It's not funny, Bree.
Sorry.
It is funny. What else can you do but laugh? I mean, and Mike, I know some small business owners who will look at this latest guidance and be like, thank God, I was almost going to have to close this week.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, it's but I think businesses have been using their best judgment, because sometimes the guidance comes out, but not all businesses are aware of it. Not everyone's able to kind of like get on the internet and look through everything and shift and navigate through everything. And so what they do is they just kind of wing it. But what they're doing is trying to decide, okay, what's the safest way of, and sometimes it's individual, it's case by case, and businesses are all different. But you do the best you can, but you have to do it fairly. That's one really important thing, is even if your rule that you're establishing is not necessarily linked to a guidance or a government regulation, whatever that rule is, apply it fairly. Don't favor certain employees and give them, treat them a little better than others. If you have a rule and you're saying, okay, if you're exposed and you report that you've been exposed, take X number of days off, take the week off, work remotely, that's always a good option, because just because the person can't come in doesn't mean they can't work, right? So you can work remotely, those kinds of things, but whatever you're going to do it fairly, because you don't want employees to sort of feel like they're being discriminated against, or just to feel like your workplace is not a fair place.
So how many times have you had to change your presentation in the past week?
Oh, I'll tell you, I've pretty much gutted the federal mandate. Yeah, because I wake up in the morning and I see notifications on my phone. Okay, mandate blocked, and then okay, well, scratch that. So
It's gonna be a short talk, guys.
it's mostly going to be the local side, but there's plenty to talk about on the local side.
That could change 3 times before your presentation, though.
Without notice.
Yeah. Sorry, Mike. All right. Well, thanks.
Well, thank you, Mike.
Yeah, good talk.
You're welcome. Good to see both of you.
Yeah, be safe, my friend.
Stay healthy.
Right on. Be safer, actually, is what I'm going with. Be safe, not really. We need to up it a little bit. Thanks, Mike. Good talk there. Yeah, I mean, even the human resources people are kind of like, huh? Hi, Jay.
Yeah, well, we've covered not only on this show but also Nestor for his show In Full Zoom has covered the HR industry over the last 2 years, and even they admit, they said our roles have changed so much, and we've had to learn so many more different things and field all of these concerns and now regulatory stuff and everything like that. And they said like HR teams are like some of the busiest people, like in not only in private sector but also like for government these days.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, this is one of my favorite. I love these comments here. Margarita comments in, maybe the changes are because they realized they exaggerated the whole COVID thing. Maybe KUAM should slow down on the paranoia reporting. Ooh, oh, we're so paranoid. We're just reporting what the government's putting out, Margarita. But thank you so much for your support and listening. I mean, it is what it is, right? I'm sure that you're tired of hearing about it, but guess what? It's kind of still a thing. Tato 7, Monday, January 31st, 2022. Pacific Points, Cabo Enterprises, IT&E, and Jack in the Box. Mayor Jesse Alex coming up with his weekly update. We're also doing work week weather with Landon Idlett of the National Weather Service. Let's go ahead and get into our 8 o'clock newscast brought to you by Pacific Points with the very latest from the KUAM News team. Good morning, Sabrina Salas-Matanani.
Off it, everybody. The Guam Police Department launched a death investigation following the discovery of human remains in Chalanpago. The discovery was made as GFD responded to a trash fire along Route 10. CID has taken over the investigation. GPD is asking if you have any information or if you know of any missing persons to please call GPD. The number is 671-475-8615, 16 or 17. The death toll due to COVID has increased as of Friday night. The JIC reported the island's 285th COVID-related fatality. He was 45 years old and was reported dead on arrival at GRMC last Wednesday. The man was vaccinated with unknown underlying health conditions. He tested positive the same day. Since Friday night, Guam recorded 1,583 new positive cases of COVID. This is from 4,355 tests conducted within that time frame. Additional results from the weekend will be reported in tonight's JIC. As of Sunday, 40 people were hospitalized for COVID, 2 patients receiving ICU level of care, 29 vaccinated, 11 unvaccinated. The CNMI reporting 92 new cases of COVID-19 out of 445 tests conducted on the 29th. Of those new cases, 55 were found through contact tracing, 25 identified in community testing, 12 via travel testing. 4 were identified on ROTA. There are now 10 active hospitalizations, 5 of whom are unvaccinated, 4 vaccinated, 1 partially vaccinated. One of those patients is on a ventilator while 1 was discharged. The total case count since March 2020 in the CNMI is now 4,864. GDOE in the meantime reported Friday that 112 students tested positive for COVID, while 14 employees tested positive. GDOE has launched Operation Guardian, where staff from GDOE Central are dispatched to help schools to stay open. Although Catholic schools have switched to remote learning, the Archdiocese released numbers on how many students have tested positive between the 14th and 19th. The total was 39 students infected with COVID. Distance learning is targeted to be in place until February 7th. Catholic School Superintendent Father Val will meet with school administrators this week to assess the situation and will update parents and school communities accordingly. Due to an unprecedented demand for COVID testing, Public Health once again revising its guidelines on who should get tested. Although additional test kits have been ordered, Guam is competing with the rest of the country. Public Health PIO Janela Carrera said on Friday that only about 23,000 test kits are left. We should note that on average, Public Health is conducting a little over 2,000 tests per day. If there's only 23,000 test kits left, that would mean public health can only test for roughly 11 more days. According to the revised testing guidelines, only those who are experiencing symptoms should be tested, or if you're considered a high-risk close contact, such as being 65 years of age or older, pregnant or unvaccinated or partially vaccinated with an underlying health condition. Public health has no timeline on when their supply of new test kits will arrive. The Philippine government announcing Friday that fully vaccinated international travelers will be allowed entry if they are fully vaccinated within 48 hours of arrival. Foreigners and returning overseas Filipinos will also no longer be required to undergo facility-based quarantine, according to a spokesperson for Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte. The Philippines also suspended its red, yellow, green COVID risk classifications for foreign countries and territories. Airlines will be mandated to require foreigners traveling to Manila to present proof of full vaccination prior to boarding. Passengers will be required to self-monitor for any symptoms for 7 days. Get ready to pay more for power starting tomorrow, February 1st. The increase follows the PUC approval last week to raise the fuel surcharge known as the LEAC by 1 cent per kilowatt hour to recover a portion of GPA's current $20.6 million in under-recovered fuel costs. The average residential power bill will go up by about $9.30 a month starting tomorrow. Senators passed several bills during a session late Friday. Among the bills passed was Bill 230. The local war claims measure would adopt the implementation plan for World War II reparations. $10 million from the general fund has been identified to pay the claims. The implementation plan also establishes an adjudication committee that will decide which claims are to be paid out, which will then be administered by the Department of Administration. The first payouts will be for the estimated 700 claimants who failed to meet the federal war reparations deadline. Then the descendants of those who died before the deadline will be paid. Senator Joanne Brown was the only senator who voted against its passage, while Vice Speaker Tina Muñoz-Barnes and Senator Talina Nelson were absent and excused. More senators and the Republican Party of Guam weighing in on Vice Speaker Tina Muñoz-Barnes' 6-month absence from the 36th Guam legislature. Here's more.
I'm hoping at some point she'll make an affirmative decision if she's able to come back, if that's her intention. Or is she planning on stepping down because, her family obligations?
Minority Senator Joanne Brown, the latest legislator seeking clarity on Vice Speaker Tina Muñoz-Barnes' extended absence from the session floor. Vice Speaker Barnes has been away from Guam since last July. Sources telling us she left island to support an immediate family member seeking medical care and was then involved in a car crash in Arizona in September. Barnes told KUAM she's been teleworking, but Senator Telo Taidagui raised her eyebrows, saying Barnes has been AWOL from public hearings. And the latest twist, the Republican Party of Guam coming out with a message of support for the Vice Speaker, reading in part, quote, "There's a time and place for a healthy debate on issues and politics, but that time should never collide with the timeline of when one is facing a medical emergency recovery." Minority Leader Senator Chris Duenas telling The Link this morning the issue is a sensitive subject to be discussed with care.
This discussion is not off limits. It's the tone and tenor of the discussion that I think is important.
But Senator Brown said the seriousness of the subject warrants more discussion, especially from the Vice Speaker, who declined an interview with KUAM.
But I'm sure at some point, because the absence is significantly long, she should come out and make a public determination and let us know, us as colleagues and the people, more importantly, what her plans are.
And what if those plans involve the Vice Speaker resigning from the legislature so she can take care of her family and fully recover? Well, Guam law says if a vacancy occurs in the legislature more than 8 months before the general election, a special election must be held to replace the vacated seat. That means if the Vice Speaker resigned before March 8th, a special election would have to be held. If she stepped down after March 8th, her seat would remain vacant until the next election. For Guam's News Network, Chris Barnett reports. Until the next election. For Guam's News Network, Chris Barnett reports. A bill to give Native Chamorro-owned small businesses in Guam and the CNMI an edge in federal contracts will be heard in Congress next month. Congressman Michael San Nicolas introduced the measure, which adds a new language to current federal law.
Congressman San Nicolas's bill is dubbed the Native Pacific Islanders of America Equity Act. It would amend certain statutes, including Section 8A of the Small Business Act, which offers a broad scope of assistance to firms that are at least 51% owned by socially or economically disadvantaged individuals. For example, it currently includes Native Hawaiian and Alaskan-owned firms who benefit from certain set-aside and sole source contracts.
This type of consideration is created for Native peoples as a means of affording them the opportunities that they should be within this country, and as opposed to having Native peoples in conflict with one another over who should avail of this, we should be making as many opportunities available for Native peoples throughout the country. And that should include the Native people of Guam.
Speaking at a briefing for local senators, he said the measure also requires the governor's office to establish a registry of Native Chamorros to determine eligibility.
The establishment of how we recognize the Native Chamorro ancestry is consistent with how we already are doing it in Guam law. We're just going to codify into the Organic Act that the federal government will then be officially recognizing that same process. The adjudication for the management of this registry is also kept entirely local, with the public auditor, our local public auditor, being the one to audit the registry itself.
San Nicolas is seeking local legislative support for the bill in the form of a resolution to be sent to his congressional colleagues. For Guam's News Network, I'm Nestor Lecanto.
The Guam Homeowners Assistance Fund program, which is a federally funded relief program to assist eligible homeowners impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic with their mortgage, utilities, and property tax payments, launches today. For more information, go to doa.guam.gov. Additionally, the acting governor, Josh Tenorio, will be holding a press conference at 10 a.m. today, which we will be live streaming on our Facebook page. Jace?
All right, well, let's get into today's work week weather forecast. It's what we do every Monday here on The Link. Sponsored by Docomo Pacific. So let's get right to Landon Idlet. He's at the National Weather Service, and we are going to check in on Landon. What was a fairly good weekend, I would say. There was actually some workout weather yesterday afternoon.
Yeah, it was definitely a beautiful weekend out there. We had a little bit of a shear line drop by near us on Friday. Dumped a few showers. We had a wetting rain here at the airport. That's 0.20 inches or more. We had about 0.3 inches here yesterday at the airport. But otherwise, not a bad weekend compared to the last several that we've had.
Those pesky shear lines, man.
These shear lines. And we're not over with that action yet. We still have one that's trying to leave our area right now. And I'll turn the camera around and show you that shortly. But we have another one coming by the end of the week. So it's going to be a great start to the week. But the last half of the week will be a little bit windier, rainier with the shear line. And then the following weekend looks like it may be improving by the weekend time. So let me turn the camera around, and this is what we're looking at across the region. So where's Guam? Guam is right there. This is the CNMI. Let me turn this around. So the shear line that we dealt with earlier in the weekend, this is right here, and it's starting to become more fragmented and diffuse, and it's moving away toward the open Pacific to the east. Our next system sits well to our northwest. This is a cold frontal system coming off of Taiwan and the Japanese islands. That's going to be pushing down into the tropical region over the next couple days. So where will it be on Wednesday? Well, by Wednesday, it's going to be coming down across the CNMI, and we're going to be seeing it just to our northwest. Thursday, it's going to be coming over Guam, bringing more showers, stronger winds, and possibly hazardous seas and surf. So watch out for that, especially as we go into Tuesday and Wednesday for any kind of surf and sea advisories. To our south, we are watching a lot of convection showers and thunderstorms across central and western Micronesia. This is Yap right there and Palau down here. All this convection, this is just from strong surging trade winds coming across eastern and central Micronesia, pushing that on toward the west. Any threat of tropical weather down there? No threat. This is all just more wintertime weather, convection, heavy showers, much needed showers, I will say, for most of these outer islands, where we do have drought starting to increase across parts of the eastern Pacific Islands in our region. Look at the radar, not bad out there, just a few spotty showers to our east, and that's still with that fragmented shear line that's pulling its way eastward as it weakens. And on the satellite, nothing to see here as well. It's very quiet. Actually, we're waiting for it to come up. I think it just blacked out on me. But the satellite, nothing much in our area. So that's the good news. So go and pull up the slides, Jason. We're going to talk about the weekend ahead. And again, it's going to be pleasant, dry start to the week. Risk of rip currents moderate, and that's along east-facing reefs. The Guam fire danger remains moderate. We had that abundant rainfall with the last several shear line passages. That will start creeping up as we go into the next several days. But the next shear line will bring us another chance for showers later this week. And again, advisories are possible. For Micronesia, high surf advisory is in effect for some of the shores of Koshrai, as well as small craft advisories in effect for Koshrai, Pohnpei, and Chuuk, where they're having that heavier weather and the stronger winds down there to our south. The drought information statement continues to be issued for Wilche and the Marshall Islands, where their drought condition was worsened. They're now at D3 extreme drought. That's the fourth level of a 5-tier system. So what are we looking at the airport right now? 77 degrees and climbing. The winds are light, northeast at 8 miles per hour, dew point 74, humidity 90%, heat index 78, and climbing as we go through the day. Again, yesterday we had 0.3 of an inch of rain, and that keeps us just above normal for the month and for the year so far. And that's going to be likely indicative of the next couple of months as we remain in this weak La Nina pattern, keeping our dry season a little bit wetter than normal. So the current drought situation, again, we have that drought condition starting to creep in across many islands, especially central Micronesia, eastern Micronesia, the Marshall Islands, and the northernmost islands of Saipan and the CNMI. That's going to be continuing in the days, weeks, and months ahead as we proceed into dry season. Our Guam fire danger remains at moderate. Looking at the next page showing those winds of the open waters, nothing much to speak of, no circulations, but we do have that departing shear line to our east, sitting just south of Wake Island, and that next one sitting well to our northwest. That'll be dropping our way the next couple of days, reaching the CNMI by Wednesday and Guam by Thursday, bringing more winds, showers, and hazardous seas and surf likely to the Mariana Islands by Thursday. Farther to the south, there's strong winds across Pohnpei, Chuuk, and Koshrai that will persist next several days, bringing those showers and thunderstorms to the outer islands of Chuuk and Pohnpei states, and also easternmost Yap state. And for the water conditions, not so bad out there if you want to be out there fishing or swimming. Today and tomorrow are your days to do that, at least before the winds start picking up. Those seas will start building. We have combined seas of 4 to 6 feet on the open waters today, with a predominant east swell at 3 to 5 feet, and those wind waves, not too bad, but as the winds pick up Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, those wind waves will increase, becoming a lot choppier on the water. So avoid the eastern side and the north-facing reefs Thursday and Friday, but currently no advisories in effect. So stay tuned by midweek once we start beefing up our forecast in response to the shear line as we see how it's going to be handling. Will it be as big as what we saw 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago? It does not look that likely at this time. It looks like it's going to be more of a smaller shear line event. So that's nothing to be too concerned about, but watch out if you have water interests later this week. And for the week ahead, again, not bad. Beautiful day to start out the week. Mostly sunny with isolated light showers. Fairly dry Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then the showers start creeping in on Wednesday night, Thursday, and Friday, becoming breezy. So watch out again Thursday, Friday with that shear line. And the weekend looks like it's going to clear out nicely just in time for Saturday and probably some more clouds on Sunday. We can have another shear line next Monday that brings in another round of stronger winds and an uptick in showers. So watch out for that. These things are just lining up one after the others. These cold fronts come right off of Japan and the Asian continent. They'll come right across the Pacific, generating these wind events for us and the swell events.
And this is not unexpected behavior. Like what we've been used to as Guamanians landing is storms kind of form and then they come up for the most part independent of each other and everything. But these shear lines are almost like rolling waves. Would that be?
Yeah, there's like rolling
accurate?
waves. Yeah, that's correct. And if you pay attention to the weather in the States, they've been having several snow events over the last several weeks.
Oh, yeah.
Particularly the East Coast, back in my hometown, North Carolina, they've had a snow event this last weekend. And somebody said, why is it always the weekends? I said, well, we have the same problem. So it's every week. Facebook is a great historical reminder. I keep getting these memories, especially through January and February, of these major shear line events where they generate these large swell. And I have it on my Facebook from 2011, 2012, and 2014. They were all notable years where we had some major wave events with north and west swell coming down across Oka Point, Tumon Bay, sometimes causing problems for people that are on the waters. That's what we always want to make sure people are aware of for all these hazards. But I would say historically, compared to other years that I've been out here the last 11 years, These have been fairly mild as far as the wave potential and the seas and surf hazards. So it's sloppy, but it could be a lot worse.
Yeah, well, one buddy of mine, just to give it some context, a buddy of mine actually moved down from Detroit because she wanted to actually get away from like the brutal winters, and she went down to Florida, and Florida's been like in the low 40s the past few days, and she's like, what did I even do?
She brought it down with her.
Yeah.
And actually, if you're following the weather out of Florida, there have been several graphics of falling iguanas. And
Yeah,
so they
I saw
issued these communications anytime it gets below a certain temperature, because the iguanas, the heart rate, the blood flow decreases and they fall out of trees.
Bree,
so
did you hear
luckily
about
we do
that?
not have that problem.
Iguanas in Florida are falling dead from trees, just falling on the ground because it's so cold there.
Yeah, it slows their blood flow. So they're still alive, but they just, it's the way the reptiles operate.
As if Florida doesn't have enough to worry about and everything like that. But hey, we know we're in good hands when we got you, man. It's like a good neighbor policy and everything like
Yeah.
that. So hopefully nothing too out of the ordinary. And if there is and everything, we know you got our back, and you can just jump on the show and let us know what's going on with the weather.
Yeah, absolutely. So this week looks beautiful out there. So enjoy the sun, enjoy the drier weather.
Okay, now before I let you go, I don't know if you want to go public with this, but you kind of like shared something with us when we were in commercial break a little bit. Is that cool to say, or is it still kind of hush hush?
Not yet. We're keeping
Okay.
the wraps on that one. My brother and I, this is regarding our project. Things are proceeding, and so probably we'll go full-blown public in April once we get through a couple
Okay.
more technicalities. But things are moving along. We got a major accomplishment met the last several days, and so we are excited for things to come this summer.
Right on.
So stay tuned on this big project.
The Lincoln Log project continues and everything, so we're looking forward to that, man. And have yourself a fantastic day.
Absolutely.
Please give our regards to everybody at the NWS. You guys got a good team there.
Absolutely, we'll do.
All right,
Thank you, Jason.
Take it easy.
Former Umatic Mayor Daniel Sanchez was found dead with 20 stab wounds in Rudy Canata's residence in April of last year. On Friday, the road to justice began, where Joyner Sked, one of the two people charged in the murder, appeared before a jury of 12. KUAM's Hannah Devonzo reports.
Opening statements got underway this morning for Joyner Sked. She, along with Rudy Canata, are charged for the murder of former Mayor Daniel Sanchez. They are being tried separately. Sked is represented by attorney Terrence Timblin.
Well, Mr. Canata is not on trial at the moment. His acts are very much part of this case. The evidence will show that Rudy Canata caused the death of Daniel Sanchez with 4 blows from a hammer with an orange handle to the back and side of his head.
Prosecuting the case is Assistant Attorney General Leonardo Rapadas.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we are here today because that woman, Joyner Scott Sked, repeatedly stabbed and killed Daniel Canata Sanchez.
A concerned neighbor, George Uggan, who took the stand today, called the Guam Police Department to conduct a welfare check on Canata, who he hadn't seen in days. The responding officer was Teodoro Perenisan.
As I got closer and closer to that opening in the wall, I noticed that foul odor smell got stronger. Noticed an individual's body laying on the floor.
Okay. What did you do when you saw that?
I was already announcing, calling out for the individual's attention. During also such time, Officer Mansfield was knocking on the door, was announcing our presence. There was no response from that individual.
Sked, along with Rudy Canata, are charged with murder as a first-degree felony and aggravated assault as a second-degree felony. The charges against Sked also include a special allegation of the use of a deadly weapon in the commission of a felony. The trial will continue on Monday. Joyner Sked is being tried separately from her boyfriend Rudy Canata, who appeared today in Superior Court for a status hearing. He, too, is accused of the murder of former Umatic Mayor Daniel Sanchez. Reporting for Guam's News Network from the Superior Court here in Hagåtña, I'm Hannah Devonzo.
We should note trial will not continue today, but at a later date. Donovan Ornelas is scheduled to appear in court this afternoon for an ex parte hearing. He's accused of the murder of 61-year-old Andrew Castro. Castro, who was wheelchair bound, was found decapitated at the Vallis Apartments bordering Agate and Santa Rita about a year ago. Ornelas is scheduled to appear before Judge Alberto Tolentino at 2:30 this afternoon. In regional news, CNMI Governor Ralph Torres is standing his ground amid the impending trial in the Senate. Tomas Menglotnya reports.
I know that it's strictly political, and so therefore what I do, it doesn't change on my priorities here in Sinamay.
Governor Ralph Torres maintains his innocence and remains unfazed by his recent impeachment. He says all of his expenditures were by the book and denies all the allegations outlined in the 6 articles of impeachment.
You said that nothing you've done is illegal. Do you believe anything you've done in these charges are perhaps unethical?
I don't think so.
He says lawmakers overreached when they held him in contempt for failing to appear before the legislative committee investigating him. He's moving forward with his lawsuit against the committee.
It is important that we don't set a wrong precedent on the governor's position.
That position up for election this year. Torres responded to his former running mate and sitting Lieutenant Governor Arnold Palacios, who's running for governor. Palacios testified against the governor in the House investigative hearings. Earlier this week, he told KOAM he cringes thinking about the old Torres-Palacios ticket.
I'm not known to be throwing punches, and I'm amazed that he would come out like that.
His political opponents, made up of independent Republicans supporting Lieutenant Governor Palacios and Democrats backing Representative Tina Sablan, ramping up their campaigns before the Senate drafts rules for the impeachment trial.
I'll continue to be the governor until the community says otherwise.
And joining us now in studio with the latest developments regarding the impeachment of the governor of the CNMI is Tomas Menglotnya. Good morning, Tomas. I understand the CNMI judiciary says we ain't getting involved.
Yes, Bree and Chris, that's what they're saying. No NMI justice or judge will preside over the Senate impeachment trial for Torres. In a letter to the Senate president on Friday, all 3 sitting CNMI Supreme Court justices declined the Senate's requests for Chief Justice Alexandro Castro or another designee to preside over the trial. They say, unlike the U.S. Constitution, the NMI does not mandate the involvement of a Chief Justice in an impeachment trial. They say that in the absence of a specific constitutional directive, it will be inappropriate for the justices or judges, which is a separate branch of government, to concern itself with the internal affairs of another branch. Justice Alexandro Castro, Justice John Menglotnya, and Justice Perry Enos wrote that the NMI Constitution places the power of impeachment solely on the legislative branch. They added, "We do not view the Senate impeachment trial as comparable to a civil or criminal proceeding. It's a uniquely legislative and political function that does not fall under the purview of the judicial branch under the NMI Constitution." The justices say that with the Constitution essentially silent on the matter, they would like to maintain the checks and balances in government. And bring Chris also the CNMI over the weekend updating its quarantine and travel protocols. They're reaching a 99% vaccination rate, and of those fully vaccinated, 50% have received their booster. So starting yesterday, the residents who tested positive for the virus and are asymptomatic can isolate at home for at least 5 days. And if home isolation isn't possible, they'll be able to stay at a government site. Also, some changes to the travel entry protocol. If you're looking to fly into the CNMI, every passenger will still have to be tested on arrival after completing a health declaration form. However, fully vaccinated travelers will be tested only on arrival. Those who want to get tested on day 5 can get tested, but it is not mandated. It is encouraged. And those traveling to Rota and Tinian as their final destination can get tested at the health centers on Rota and Tinian. However, if you're unvaccinated and entering the CNMI, you're still required to quarantine in a government facility for 5 days, and you'll be tested on day 5. And also, you must complete the mandatory health declaration form at least 72 hours prior to arrival. And you could also possibly home quarantine if your lodging passes assessment by the Commonwealth Healthcare Corporation. So those are some of the stories that we'll be also following up on Primetime.
You know, I wanted to ask about the CNMI judiciary kind of like backing away from this whole impeachment trial. This isn't the first governor, though, that's been impeached. Did the judiciary back then, was it Fitial?
Yeah, Fitial resigned before the impeachment trial could happen, so they never had to test this process. But we're gonna look into it more tonight. I was just looking at it. Impeachment is mentioned 10 times in the Constitution, and they're right. It is essentially silent. It doesn't say that a judge or justice should. However, the Senate rules that they're probably gonna release this week might, further define that. A judge or justice could be impeached themselves. The attorney general could be impeached. The governor, the lieutenant governor could be impeached. And so the argument there is that this is a purely legislative thing. So the justices or judges might not get involved. It will be interesting to see if they tap any Guam judges or justices to get involved. It's hard to see maybe any of the senators themselves kind of presiding over the trial, given that they're also going to be the jurors. So.
Wow.
Yeah. And we're going to have more reaction from Senate President Jude Hofschneider, who held that press conference last week, saying that these things haven't yet been decided. I don't know if they anticipated that none of the justices would agree to preside over the Senate impeachment trial. So more uncertainty on that end.
Big news, though.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Thanks a lot, Tomas.
Thanks,
Do you
man.
have something else for us?
Daily question or anything?
Yeah, we can do a roundup at the end of the week, but right now, just tracking those stories for you.
Okay.
Thank you for tracking that.
Tech
Appreciate
Center.
it.
Thanks, Tomas. Tech Center Guam awarded a one-year, $250,000 local government contract to create a drone program for the Guam Fire Department and Gov Guam. The company will provide Gov Guam an augmented drone fleet as GFD builds its drone capacity. Eventually, the program will expand to include DPW, Guam EPA, and GPD. The program will help to enhance search and rescue capabilities of first responders. About 15 GFD workers and partnering agencies will undergo training to obtain a remote pilot certificate from the FAA. Eligible University of Guam students urged to apply for the UOG CARES Emergency Grant. The program assists students in need during the pandemic. You must be a full-time or part-time student enrolled between March 13th, 2020 to current and demonstrate need and financial hardship. Eligible students could receive amounts of up to $700 this semester. Applications will be accepted until 5 p.m. Friday, February 25th, or until all funds have been awarded. To apply and for more information, visit url.uog.edu/caresgrant2022. With your news in Chamorro, here's Kim Concepcion.
Buenas tardes, tiget sunto bikunut sa moro ni KUAM News. Presenta ni Familian Mizo gi First Hawaiian Bank. Ajimat sa seri gi egan sabalu ni Kimson Basula gita tinibomban hanum gi funeral 10 gita salampago sa masoda matay tau-tau sa magklasifika na investigasyon matay. I-detective siya gini Division Investigasyon Kriminal gi Departamento Polisia sa siya pago membestiga este na kausa. Kung magwang informasyon mo por este na insidente, por favor agang i GPD Dispatch gi 671-475-15-15-6-7. Mas asunto, i-John Information Center sa ma-report na 40 na tao sa man may hospital por COVID-19. Dos gui sa gayi gi ICU na klasen na 60, 29 sa man mabakuna, sa 11 sa timan mabakuna. Di Domingo ma-report ni Departamento sa Salud Publiko na 364 nuevo na kausang COVID. Ginin meet 3 na test, 5 analisa gi 29 gi Enero. Mas-resulto sa man ma-analisa. Sa pumalo siya sa sempre masabmitin ni otro na klinik siya pago na dia. Inumbrong kausang COVID destitutohon niya sa 31 meet 804, 285 mampinino 8 meet 150 na kausa gi active na isolation sa 23 meet 369 man homlo ginesti na chatnud. Esta huli gi dia 29 gi Enero 132 meet 808 sa man mabakuna kabalas gi populasyon guahan por 5 anyos para hulo na edad. 50 meet 595 sa man madulog ni booster giya man kwalifika desde dia 29 gi September gi mapasasakan. Yuto mo na sunto gi finutsamoro para pago na Lunes gi ni KUAM News. Taza West para justicia gi isina mai para otato gi trial niya para impeachment ni Gobernador Ralph Torres. Gikata para Presidente ni Senate Jude Hofschneider. Tori tres na justicia ni Supreme Court isina mai sa marinuncia i-requestan ni Senate para si Alexandro Castro para otro ni sinema designa para otato ginin na trial para Gobernador. Justicia Alexandro Castro, Justicia John Manglona dan Justicia Perry Enos sa matugi na Constitution ni NMI sa naipodet impeachment guatigi ramas legislatura. Ilig niya justicia siya na po di Constitution ti mampu sa explica esti ti para ufansano gini na patin trial impeachment. Ilig niya na ma-adject mas para ma-assisti esti na klaseng balansya. Para Guam News Network, Guam si Kim Concepcion. Yasuto ifinut sa moro sa presenta sa ninafatto ni Familian Mizo gi First Hawaiian Bank.
Say hello to the First Hawaiian Bank mobile app. Want a better look at your spending? With Money Map, you can automatically create budgets and manage where your money is going. Know when you have a green light or when it's time to slow down. Maybe cook more meals at home this week. Set your goals, track your progress, and find your way to exactly where you want to be with Money Map from the First Hawaiian Bank mobile app. It all starts with yes.
Do you feel like you're missing out on something? Make life more rewarding with Pacific Points. Earn and redeem points for bill rebates and free load at IT&E, discounts on fuel at Shell, vouchers at Foodies, and United Mileage Plus miles. You can even pay with Pacific Points at IT&E, Shell, and Foodies. Pacific Points. Do more, get more.
GU Self-Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information.
Get the job done the right way by getting the right stuff at East West Rental Center. With years of experience helping builders, we definitely got what you need. Call 646-1463 or visit us in Upper Tumon. Open Monday to Saturday from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. and on Sundays from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Pizza Hut's stuffed crust is the crust that made crust good. Topped and stuffed with over a half pound of cheese. What are you so afraid of? Loving it? Original stuffed crust, only from Pizza Hut. No one out-pizzas the Hut.
Mariana's Irrigation and Landscape Superstore. Stop on by and visit our showroom today. We offer everyday low prices on all major outdoor power equipment like bush cutter, chainsaw, power washer, generators, and more. Need service, repair, maintenance? Well, check out Guam's best superstore only at Mariana's Irrigation and Landscape, located in Barragata along Army Drive between Submarina and Besta Market. Call 735-7446 for more information. Now shipping to surrounding islands. Mariana's Irrigation and Landscape Superstore.
Join Nestor Lacanto for virtual in-depth discussions with the movers and shakers in our community every Wednesday on In Full Zoom. Presented by IT&E and Calvo Enterprises, Inc. KUAM Communication is your go-to source for the biggest national and international sports events. Check out KUAM TV8 and KUAM TV11 for the biggest sports specials, championships, and events from every court, track, field, and playing ground. We're bringing you all the action and excitement. Brought to you locally by Mariana's Irrigation and Landscape and Docomo Pacific.
Hafaday Guam, our community partner APL, invites the public to a donation drive to benefit Harvest House right here at home. Join us on Saturday, February 5th from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Costules in Tamuning, where we will be accepting donations. Your contribution would go a long way to supporting our community and those who have come to rely on Harvest House. Any and all donations are welcome. Thank you, Guam. APL, Better Ways.
Hey, have you guys kind of noticed maybe the show isn't as cool as it normally is?
There's no shortage of cool on this show.
Our aircon is down, okay?
Yeah, whoo.
So,
but you know what? You know what's also heating up? The AFC Championship game on KUAM TV 11 right now. Cincinnati. Evan McPherson, the rookie kicker, has taken the lead, and the Bengals are now up on the road in Kansas City, 24-21.
24-21, there you go.
They came all the way down from 21-3.
Okay, 8:44. Good morning. Mayor Jesse Alec joins us in the KUAM News Link Zoom room. Good morning, Mayor.
Off a day. Good morning.
Off a day.
I know Bree's excited for this interview.
It's good to see you, Mayor.
Gosh, we had good interviews for the last, month.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, there was actually an update over
Always
the
a
last
good
month.
interview with
Bree.
you,
I wish you were there for it, but they got you got your COVID differential pay now?
Correct.
Not
Yeah.
all of it though, right?
No, I think we're caught up now as of last week.
You're not 4 pay periods behind?
No. Next week we will be. Yeah, I think we're caught up now. As far as I was told. At least on if my staff got it, then everyone else got it. So.
And that was
I know
through
myself.
what? Electronic transfer?
Yeah, correct, yeah. Yeah, that's how we do it these days.
Do you know what the pay period was though?
I'm sorry, the what?
What pay period it was for?
You know what? I'm not positive. Well, it'll be through January, that's for sure. Yeah, but I can get that and let you know.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that.
How has your office been affected by, or has it been affected by close contacts, positive cases, and just as a whole, the Mayor's Council of Guam, the individual villages, how are they being hit by this surge?
Well, yeah, that's kind of the, thank God for Dr. Wen, honestly, because I heard you guys and I saw the flyer, and I when I shared that flyer, of course I was getting feedback after I shared the flyer, because the flyer, I think the flyer came from you, Chris. I think you gave me that flyer. I don't know. I think it was you.
Yeah.
I don't believe it came down from public health. But when I saw that flyer and I thought, okay, well, let's share it. Of course, that the question came up with about having to isolate or quarantine if you are fully vaccinated, no booster, and a close contact. And so I know that was a big issue among some people, because of employment. And and so of course I went to the CDC guidelines and looked, and sure enough, that's the public health flyer says should quarantine. But it just, when you have the should and the must in the same flyer, it almost kind of seems like you have to do it and it's a must. So that's what people were doing. Whereas the CDC guidelines are saying otherwise. Right? So you could actually go to work. So what were the mayors doing? Everyone had a different scenario, because it was just complex, right? How many people were positive in the office, or if they were close contacts. Some of them actually lived together, so that it was difficult. We try not to close the mayor's offices, especially if we can at least have one person in the office, then that helps out. We did have some issues in other offices, but I think for the most part they were resolved. There were no big issues, right? Of course, we're kind of expecting that everyone's going to have COVID, right? At this point, and then we just kind of have to deal with it the best way possible, keeping in mind that whatever we do, whatever happens, we're still here in service of the people. So, and we're almost all vaccinated in the Mayor's Council. So, I think there's just a couple that are not, and that's so that's a good thing. But yeah, we're all kind of like, we're all in the same boat as everyone else in the Mayor's Council. So we're either close contacts or there's positives, and we try and handle it as best as we can. We try not to close the offices as much as in the very beginning when that happened, right? It was immediately to close the office. But if it's not necessary, then we don't. And the other thing that most offices have is a service window. So we don't actually have residents come into the offices any longer. And so that helps us out a lot.
I know I was off island for a bit, and for what I understand, you guys may have gotten some ARPA money, or no?
Yeah.
No? You guys actually got it?
We got some of it. So we're going to receive the 8 million. That's the first half, and so I think now we currently have about 1 million And that million is to pay for certain villages who have utility bill issues, also some of the maintenance that we're going to need for the senior centers. So that's gonna, we're going to make sure that we have that procured before we open the center. So that's what that's for. That's for personnel and for maintenance on the senior center operations side.
So when you get
And
a rest?
I'm sorry.
When you getting a rest?
When are we? I'm sorry.
Getting the rest? You said you're supposed to
Oh,
get
the
8. You
rest.
got 1.
Well, I don't know. I don't know when we're going to get the rest. So what we're going to do is we're working with DPW on the specs for the heavy equipment, and so they're going to do the procurement. We're not going to receive the actual cash for that. DPW will get the cash for it, and but we'll get the heavy equipment, and that heavy equipment is for the 3 regions, the north, central, and south. And that will also include the hiring of heavy equipment operators. So we're going to have heavy equipment operators for each of the pieces of equipment, so that there's ownership and that they maintain and service those pieces of equipment, and it's not different operators as it moves along through the villages. And so that'll be monitored by our admin office. So that's one part of the 8 million. The other part is the vehicles for each of the villages. And so we're working on that now to get, it would be either one 4x4 vehicle or 4x4 truck per village. We're looking at other options because some villages don't need a 4x4 and they would need 2 instead of 1 vehicle they would prefer. So most of us have an old fleet of vehicles, and our typical budgets, our annual budgets are insufficient to purchase actual new vehicles. So we have to buy the used cars at GSA, which run us a couple $1,000s, and because they're only that much, they're going to break down, and that's kind of what most of us have. So using this money to purchase more vehicles for our maintenance work is probably going to be beneficial.
Who's doing the procurement for the vehicles?
We are our office, our admin office. And then the other part of that 8 million is, which is a large chunk, is the 2.5 million for maintenance and beautification. And so we've asked each office to submit a plan so that we're accountable for that 2.5 million, and we know how we're using that 2.5 million to make Guam cleaner and more pleasant for not only our residents but hopefully for our visitors soon enough. And so the projects range from better grass cutting in the villages to facility maintenance. There's some facility repair, bathroom repair, park restroom repair, some pavilion repair in the parks. All of that is going to be covered under that 2.5 million. And then
I saw that the Sinohanya Mayor's office got some money for the expansion of the outdoor senior center, right?
That's correct, yeah.
Right. What about other villages?
I'm not positive. That's completely out of ARPA. It's not part of the ARPA money, and it's not something that we did as a council. That was just Mayor Hoffman's initiative.
Any word on when senior centers might be opening, or we're going to wait till Omicron?
Yeah, we're gonna wait. We're gonna wait. We're gonna wait because they really are our most vulnerable population. And as much as I was interested and I was excited to get them started, because there's definitely a group that wants to start, I was afraid, quite honestly, to get them back because we don't have the means to take care of them should they get sick. We're not like the schools where they equip with nurses and other professionals. We have recreation leaders that staff our senior centers, and yeah, we're as much as we have mitigation plans prepared for each of the centers, and as much as they've been inspected by DEH, there's just, I don't think we can be too prepared to get these Manamco back into the centers. And the other thing is, it's kind of a toss up as to how we're gonna, what's gonna work out better for us, because the senior meals have been, that has been just an item of contention, simply because if we open those centers, the 1,000 plus, it's maybe 1,200 meals. I know it's at least 1,000 meals are gonna, those Manamco will not be getting their meals. They're gonna have to find other ways to get a meal delivered to their home, and that's one of the things that we were pushing out each time. Was every week we were telling the elders to call case management to see what you qualify for other home services, for other meal delivery services, so that once the center opens, you're still going to be receiving a meal Monday through Friday, because there are other programs through the Division of Senior Citizens for the Manamco. And even now, quite honestly, I encourage our own people in PT and everywhere else, if you're not part of the senior center program, then this is the time to prepare yourselves to either visit the Division of Senior Citizens or give them a call and see if you qualify for another meal program. And if there are children out there who are listening who have parents receiving these meals Monday through Friday, and they don't regularly attend the senior center at the village, please, call the Division of Senior Citizens, speak to someone in case management, and see if you can apply for your parent for another meal program, so that once we do open, they can still receive a meal. Because again, once we open, you have to come to the center to have a meal. There's just no way around it.
Yeah.
And that's just, that's the federal guidelines from the grantor. So where opening is, we don't know yet. I mean, we were given we were told that this would be another week. And for me, the week was Saturday. But yet we still had, what was our percentage like yesterday? At least 30% positive again. And so, I mean, I don't know how soon we're going to see a good decrease or decline in positivity.
Yeah.
So,
I know we covered the ARP, right? Did you ever get the ESF money?
No. We had an orientation.
When was that?
So,
While I was away.
I wasn't able to make the orientation, but one of my coworkers made it there. So they're gonna, they talked to us about how we're going to, how we need to spend the money, the reporting requirements. We were supposed to submit first report January 20th.
January 20th? January 20th?
Mm-hmm.
It's January 31st.
Yeah. But, so of course the report is zero, because we didn't receive the money. We couldn't do anything. But the challenge here, Bree, with that is, seeing the situation that we're in now. When we first developed those programs, we were kind of we were at a point where the outlook was good, meaning thinking we could open up and we can have students come over and we can have all these activities for after school and the summer. I'm not sure how everyone's planning, but I think we need to be a little more creative in the way we use this money now, simply because we never know what's going to happen. I mean, if this is truly endemic, then we're certainly going to have to do more than what we planned to do, in as far as being safe and being innovative in the way we execute these programs.
Okay,
but
so,
no money yet.
Okay,
no money
so
yet.
to recap, you guys got COVID differential pay, ESF funding at nothing, ARP money, you got $1 million, $8 million, some way, sometime is going to be making its way to mayors. The MCOG trying best not to have to close mayor's offices, and senior senators. Still no word on when they're going to be open. What about discussions? Wanted to follow up on technology upgrades for mayor's offices. Aren't you guys supposed to be getting like computers and things like that?
Yeah, we are. We're supposed to get computers, software for management, right, for our verifications. Hopefully we don't get it when it's at GSA.
So, Tadza?
Yeah, Tadza. We might get it when it's, I don't know.
So let me just rephrase my line of questioning then, I guess. What have you guys received in federal assistance and help?
1 million and COVID pay. Okay. So the COVID pay, that's all federal assistance. The 1 million for the maintenance workers for the SCO and utility bills. That's what we received so far. Everything is supposed to be ready to go. I know that they're controlling the mayor's council simply because there's strict reporting requirements. But, sometimes you just kind of have to roll with the punches. And I think I am used to it at this point where, hey, I mean, if it's coming to us, it's going to come. We made it this far through the pandemic. We had fiscal 21 with a shortfall. We ended fiscal 21 with a shortfall. We're still standing. We're still here. We sucked it up. There are so many things that we had to pay out of pocket, which is fine. We're here. 22 came, fiscal 22 came. We got a little more money. Some of us got a little more money. Some of us got a little less money based on, how we agreed to divvy out our money for the 19 villages. But nevertheless, we're still here. Could we get more? Yeah. Is the outlook bright for us? I think it is. I really do. I just feel that we just need to, once we get that money, things will get better. But the problem that we're going to have, Bree, is that once we get all this money, or the question is, who's going to do it, right? What contractor is going to do it? No contractor wants a $20,000 job. I mean, look at our roads. They're not going to get paved because not Black Construction, but Hawaiian Rock is the only contractor, the vendor that provides that material, and they're all over the military, right? Because there's billions of dollars there. So when the mayors get their money, we'll only get tens of thousands. And I say it like that because what contractor is gonna entertain us? I mean, we're seeing it now because we have. Some of us were awarded grants from GIDA that were $25,000 and below, and nobody wants a small project, right? So that's my concern is once we get all the money, who's going to do this? Who's going to do the work? I'm hoping that by then, there'll be enough contractors, enough workers out there to answer our requests for price quotation.
All right,
Mayor, what was the holdup with the ESF though? Because I was looking at the governor's website, governor.guam.gov, and this press release, $36.9 million awarded for youth and education programs, August 9 of last year.
I don't know. I really don't know what the holdup is. We had the, there's always some guidance. That's going to be used for us. So, like I said, we just roll with the punches because what can I do? I don't have the money. If I had the money, I'd give it away, but I don't. And there's just absolutely no, I don't have any authority unless it gets to us, until it gets. So at this point, we're all just kind of waiting. And I say we're prepared because all our staff attended an orientation for the ESF. And for us, there are some villages getting well over $100,000 And that's, that's a big chunk of change for a lot of the villages.
Yeah.
Seeing that our annual budgets are well below 100,000.
I mean, there's a lot of awards here. There's academic activities to include 1.2 million to GCC. They've got the sports activities, right, which is they've got 230 grand to Guam League basketball, about 40 to Guam rugby. Then there's a development and enhancement of learning resources to include 2.3 million to PBS Guam and 635,000 to NIHI, Duk Duk Goose, as well as 579,000. These are big awards, Mayor.
Oh yeah, and you know what? We know that a lot of them have already received it.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, because we hear about it, and then we know already that there's a basketball group that received it, and I know it because they're calling me, and if they're ready to go, good on them, because I want to use our basketball court. Our basketball court is new, and so I think we're slated for April, and hey, that's great. But if they got their money, then why are we still waiting? So yeah, I can't tell you why and how. I can only tell you when we get it.
Wow. Okay. I guess we'll ask around.
Yeah, ask around. Let me know. It always starts. The problems always start when you start asking around.
Oh God, I'm sorry.
The solutions come when you start asking.
And the problems too. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, we'll try and get him on the link.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll be listening.
Thank you.
Adios.
There you go. That's Mayor Jesse Alec. We're coming back with Dr. Ho Wen just after a really quick break here on the link. Good morning.
Time for a quick pickup? Holiday Guam, our community partner APL invites the public to a donation drive to benefit Harvest House right here at home. Join us on Saturday, February 5th from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Costules in Tamuning, where we will be accepting donations. Your contribution would go a long way to supporting our community and those who have come to rely on Harvest House. Any and all donations are welcome. Thank you, Guam. APL, Better Ways.
KUAM Communication is your go-to source for the biggest national and international sports events. Check out KUAM TV8 and KUAM TV11 for the biggest sports specials, championships, and events from every court, track, field, and playing ground. We're bringing you all the action and excitement. Brought to you locally by Marianas Irrigation and Landscape and Docomo Pacific. Join Nestor Lacanto for virtual in-depth discussions with the movers and shakers in our community every Wednesday on In Full Zoom. Presented by IT&D and Calvo Enterprises, Inc.
Pizza Hut stuffed crust is the crust that made crust good. Topped and stuffed with over a half pound of cheese. What are you so afraid of? Loving it? Original stuffed crust, only from Pizza Hut. No one out-pizzas the Hut.
Get the job done the right way by getting the right stuff at East West Rental Center. With years of experience helping builders, we definitely got what you need. Call 646-1463 or visit us in Upper Tumon. Open Monday to Saturday from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. and on Sundays from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m.
GU Self-Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information.
Do you feel like you're missing out on something? Make life more rewarding with Pacific Points. Earn and redeem points for bill rebates and free load at IT&E, discounts on fuel at Shell, vouchers at Foodies, and United Mileage Plus miles. You can even pay with Pacific Points at IT&E, Shell, and Foodies. Pacific Points. Do more, get more.
Buenas Sanhafadi. Part of taking care of yourself is participating in cancer screening. Make it a point to see your doctor at least once a year for an annual visit to discuss your risk and to determine which tests are right for you. Many tests are free or covered by insurance, and there may be programs to help those who don't have insurance. Cancer screening can save your life. There are screening tests that can catch cancer early when it may be easier to treat. So learn more at cancer.org/getscreened.
Say hello to the First Hawaiian Bank mobile app. Want a better look at your spending? With Money Map, you can automatically create budgets and manage where your money is going. Know when you have a green light or when it's time to slow down. Maybe cook more meals at home this week. Set your goals, track your progress, and find your way to exactly where you want to be. With Money Map from the First Hawaiian Bank mobile app. It all starts with yes.
Let us know what's up on our KOM News WhatsApp tip line at 671-727-0094. Share information about what's happening in your town, on Guam or the CNMI, and what you want us to know. Reach us on WhatsApp at 671-727-0094.
Let it all go, girl. There is no one to impress tonight, baby. It's just you and me, so let's just see what this night will bring. Let it all go, girl. There is nothing we can handle, baby.
I'll deliver you flowers. I'm just counting the hours. Being away from you too long is draining my powers, baby. Trying to find all the words to describe what I'm feeling. By the way, you're beautiful this evening. Baby girl, don't worry about impressing me. The only thing I find impressive is you don't have wings. Cause to me you're an angelic, supernatural being. So don't worry about a thing, cause tonight's on me. Hey, how about we just hop in my ride? Cruise around till we find a spot that we like. Lay a blanket down and look up at the stars.
All right, welcome back to The Link, everybody. Big happenings right now in Kansas City as the Cincinnati Bengals tied the game. It went to overtime, and they intercepted Patrick Mahomes, the former MVP, on their first overtime possession. They're about 10 yards away, Chris, from making their first Super Bowl in over 30 years. I think our friend Dr. Ho Wen at American Medical Center, he's a Saints fan, I believe, so I don't know if he's watching the game.
Yeah.
No.
Yep.
Not watching the game.
Sorry, Doc. Dr. Ho Wen, he's a former chair of the Physician Advisory Group, fighting out of American Medical Center Clinic in Mailao this morning. Doc, thank you so much for joining us. I don't even know where to start. So where do you want to start?
I agree. I don't know where to start. There's so much thing really crazy. But, let's start with the new guideline. I think that, my head spin when you talk about this morning. It's very confusing, but the bottom line, there's 2 or 3 things I want people to take out of the guideline, and I know it's not going to follow the guideline, but I think the guideline right now need to be kind of revised again. Okay, so the number one thing is that if you test positive, you have to isolate yourself at home for 5 days at the time where you test positive, not at the onset of symptom. I tell you, it's very dangerous when you start day one as the onset of symptom, because most people have absolutely no idea when the symptoms start. For example, if you say a symptom start about 4 days ago, you test positive now, that means that you only isolate for 1 day and you're going to go back to work. Guys, that's very dangerous. So please, people and employer, if you test positive, you're going to count the time that you test positive as day 0 and count day 1 the next day and 5 days out. But do not go back to work if you think that your symptoms start 3-4 days ago, because you're going to go back to work and infect everybody at work. And so again, please, start your test date number 1 or then number 0 on the time that you test positive, not based on your symptom date. It's very dangerous. Like I say, we see that in the clinic, and people really don't know when their symptoms start. So for the most safest way is to count day 0 as the time where you test positive, and count 5 days out before you can return to work. If your symptoms improve and you have no fever for 24 hours, and then you can wear your mask at work on day number 6. Okay, so that's very important, not on the time your symptom, because again, most of them don't know when the symptoms start, and they're going to shortchange the isolation period, and they're going to get the workplace infected. Okay, so that's very important on when do you start your day 1. Okay.
Doc,
This
can I
would-
ask you something?
Yes.
Because of how these guidance are changed frequently, when you were with the PAG, were these ran by the physicians advisory group to kind of vet them and say, oh yeah, maybe you should change this or that before it's released? Or
Yeah, I mean that's what we used to do. I'm not sure it's still there or not, but I think that we should not be changing the guidelines so frequently, because there's nothing changed out there that recent, and the guideline, as I talked to Chris in late December, is pretty straightforward already, and guidelines should come out once and it should not be changed every week or so, because there's nothing changed there. So again, the testing date for positive and when we go back to work is very important, because I hear a lot of employers express the concern on the employee coming back to work, still coughing, congestion. So again, the safest way is basically, count the date, start the date when you turn positive, not on the date the symptom. I tell you, very dangerous to put that burden on the patient and the employer that have the risk of having the employee come back still infected. Okay, so I just want to pass that on. But yes, the guideline, I hope it will change for the last time. I hope the PAC will look at very careful before they push the guideline out. Okay. For close contact positive, vax or unvax to me should be the same. Everyone should wear their mask at this point when they go to work or they go outside. But I would highly, highly encourage, symptomatic or not, you should be tested on day number 4 or number 5 post close contact that you have there. So don't test me earlier than that. It won't do any good. If it's negative, doesn't mean anything. So the close contact testing should be number 4, number 4, number 5. But I would highly encourage people to get tested on that day and not be deterred on the shortage of test kit. That's not the people problem, but you should come out there and get tested to let you know if you have the virus or not. But again, it's on day 4 or day 5 post close contact, and not sooner than that. I would get tested if you have close contact to protect your family and protect yourself, your workplace. Okay.
As you know, and our listeners know, we still have the Adaloop still has this ban imposed on anybody coming on live on the link, and it's been in effect for several months now. But just in speaking with any of your friends, have you heard if any test kits have arrived? Because Friday we were told only 23,000 were left.
No, I know I know the test kit is going through the procurement process, and I wish that they treat it as emergency and not go through the procurement process, just because we need to test people out there, especially in the middle of the surge. There's no word when the test kit coming here. I know that it's going to be out in about a week or so, but we should that should not be deterrent on people go testing, because if not, this high triple-digit number is going to continue for a long time, and the hospitalization will continue to go up. Again, we going to be in this surge probably the next 4 to 5 weeks or so. So people need to kind of help curb the surge by really paying attention to symptoms, get tested, and try not to go to any gathering at this point.
Can you talk about BA2, this other Omicron variant? How concerned should we be right now?
Yeah, we should be concerned with BA2. You know, I think that's what they call a stealth variants, right? So right now we still don't know much about. I know it's in the UK and in Europe, and especially Denmark. But you know, the word is that the test kit that we have right now might not pick up the BA2. So that's going to be interesting. You treat everyone by the symptom. But I hope that's not the thing. So I think we still have a lot of things that we learned about it. We just have to kind of watch out. But right now we need to handle the current Omicron variants first. If we don't do anything different, I tell you, a lot of people will turn positive. And again, we cannot forget about the risks of life loss in this variant. So we will lose more life on it. So it's just, we have to be careful on this one.
Right, you said if we don't do anything different, we're still going to get the same results. So, I mean, is there anything different that we can do?
Yeah, we should put some restrictions on gathering, Sabrina, Chris, I mean, everyone know, I passed by Paseo last night and I saw, oh my goodness, I don't know what's going on there, but it's so full of cars and tents, everything there that I don't know. Well, I mean, this is the way that we're going to treat, this Omicron like a mild flu or whatever, and we let it run rampant. It's going to hurt our economy, going to hurt our people, and to me, restrictions should put out there for people to follow, and people will follow. But if you put the message that's a mild flu symptom, it's not going to work. Again, as you can see, Dr. Lombard the other day, if you trust that we're going to build herd immunity to this Omicron, you really read the wrong message. There's no such thing as herd immunity on this COVID. It's going to keep coming back, and we're going to hurt our island much, much more by not putting any restriction out there.
But Doc, I mean, the governor said prepare for a super typhoon, and then we didn't do anything, and now here we are.
I know.
I mean, it's crazy.
That's where it's a mixed message that is really need to be sent out correctly. But yeah, it's just it's not mild symptom, guys. If you see people that come down with, including some of my staff, they can't breathe. It's not mild. And it's not like the flu symptom. We typically don't see people that many admit to the hospital for flu, and we don't see the flu this infectious. It is very infectious. We cannot treat this as a mild symptom. Again, if you think it's a mild symptom, then to me, we should not be any pandemic emergency, because it's like the flu. So the message has to go out there very clear. And if we're going to be a pandemic emergency, then this is not the flu. This is not mild. We will have to pay attention to it. And again, the message had to be out there appropriately, so our people can take caution on it and not curve the surge here.
Yeah, Doc, I mean, I totally agree with you. But when GDOE's dashboard, this is what they told the parents to pay attention to. It's high risk. They're in a high risk status right now, but everyone's still going to school. We had the governor say prepare for a super typhoon. Well, she's over in Washington, D.C. at the National Governors Association. What do they have, like a meeting in the winter, in the spring, the summer, fall, and then in between? Because, yeah, we're just here. So I know what you're saying, that the message has to be serious, but when you look at the government's response to it, outside of we're running short on test kits, I'm not sure if that seriousness is something that the people are getting from that message.
Yeah. I think it's where the media coming from, so we just had to push a message out there for people that hey, take it serious. And like I said, it's you don't want to bring this home to your elderly people at home, especially people that have comorbidity. And you can see that we lose some young people too in the 40s, not just the old one. Yeah. So you got to be one. And
And Chris talked about GDOE. I know there's a lot of positive out there in the student. Yes, there's a spread out there in the school. When you see students that turn positive in the household and the parents are negative, and we see multiple, there's a spread in school. So the school do its best to kind of prevent the spread in the school, but I don't know who do the contact tracing in school, the GDOE or public health. But we shouldn't say that there's no spread in the school unless it confirmed there's a spread in school. And I just ask the parents that if you are positive as a parent, please let the school know and keep your kids home from school for at least 5 days to make sure you monitor the symptom. And if your kid have any type of congestion or runny nose, do not send them to school. Go get tested first. Because yes, there's a spread in the school. I would tell you 100%. But again, there's no confirmation if you don't look for it. But from the clinic standpoint of view, we test multiple students that turn positive and the parents are negative. That means that it's within the school. So ask the parent to keep an eye. Again, if the parents are positive, keep your kid home from school for at least 5 days, monitor the symptom and get tested before you send back to school. If your children have any symptom of runny nose, just test them before you send them to school.
Doc, we did have a comment here. Sorry, just real quick. Would you be able to explain, because this was on the JIC, what is unknown underlying conditions on a COVID death of this 45-year-old vaccinated, a male? That was what we got in the JIC. Is that something where they just look at it and they're like, oh, there must have been something wrong with this guy? Or what does that even mean, Doc, that it makes it on a document that goes out to the public?
If anyone that passed away, DOA, that hit the emergency room, they will test for COVID. And some people have comorbidity on it, and you got to remember, COVID is not just purely a viral infection affecting lung. It's very special. It's different than influenza and anything else. Is that it creates a lot of inflammation that affect the brain, the heart, the lungs. So people that have any type of comorbidity, like high blood pressure or diabetes or cholesterol, it can exacerbate their comorbidity and make them have a stroke or a heart attack. That's the bad part about the COVID, is that it creates this inflammation and this microembolism that causes this problem. Influenza doesn't do that. Yes, it's not the sole source of the reason that people die, but it does exacerbate the comorbidity and cause them to die much earlier than they're supposed to. And that's what people understand, is that yes, they're gonna count COVID death as you come in for different reasons, like heart attack or stroke, just because COVID does exacerbate by create inflammation and microembolism on those people. And again, if they don't have the virus, they might survive, but they might not be the time that they die yet, just because they won't create those inflammation and microembolism that throw them overboard. So yes, it's a fact that you have to look for, even if you come in with other reason and then you test positive for COVID, because you have to know, is that the chance to exacerbate the comorbidity or not.
Doc, what are you hearing about burnout of public health employees, frontliners? This has been going on. We've been going at this for how long, Chris? 2 years?
Yeah, it's been a while.
You talking about how it affect the front line of the healthcare?
Yeah, burnout. They got to be really restless, especially with Omicron.
Yeah, I mean, the clinic are getting tired. I'm not talking about just AMC. All the FT2 clinic, we got hit hard. It's very hard to keep the same pace of seeing sick patients when your own staff turn positive too, and affect all the clinic. So just like today, we probably run half capacity just because it does affect the people inside the clinic. I imagine the hospital, I know they have lots of positive in the hospital in the employee, and that affected their care for their patient too. So, it's when you have open the floodgate and let it happen, it will affect every aspect of society, even to the healthcare, the restaurant, the business. Yeah, it's going to hit them. But again, when the frontliner, like the clinic, and then the last point is the hospital get affected because they have infection and their staff, you're going to affect the access to care for the people, especially in this time when the surge are going on right now. So it's very hard. I wish that the administrator kind of look at things in a different way, but it does. You get tired, and people are stressed to the max on the healthcare system wise. The front line, I'm sure the police and the fire department the same way.
By the way, I have been gone for a while, but are we still doing the vaxxed, unvaxxed, you go eat outside?
Yeah.
Is that still in
We
effect?
still do the vax and really, again, time to take a very hard look at it and make some change. I don't think that we should be, make the difference vax, unvax. So everyone carries the virus. So I think that should be we look at very carefully and change it. So that's the part where I listened to you guys talk this morning about mandating the testing for unvaxxed person, and I know that the private employer have to bear the burden, the cost, and that makes no sense. I think that the GovQuam unvaxxed and the private employer unvaxxed should be tested for free. The testing comes from your taxpayer money. So I think that to distinguish between the private employer that had to pay and the GovQuam employee that don't have to pay, it makes no sense. It comes from your tax money. So they should be treated the same. So the private employer should not spend anything on the mandate for them to be testing the unvaxxed people.
All right, Doc.
I'm sorry.
I guess
Doc,
for
we
me,
did-
go ahead.
I'm sorry, we had a question here. I know the guidance says high risk, over 50, unvaccinated, or partially vaxxed with at least one or more comorbidity. It's confusing. Does this mean that you must have one or more, or just one if you're unvaccinated?
Yeah, if you unvax or vax, if you have one comorbidity, you qualify already. And it's not Guam, right? Most of us, including myself, are overweight. So that's already is a qualification already. So, so if you show up in the testing line, just say I'm overweight. So who's going to argue with you? You're going to be tested anyway, right? Because that's one of the criteria of the risk factor for comorbidity.
Thanks, Doc.
Yeah, I guess my final ask of you is, it's been triple digit positive cases since the beginning of January. So that means thousands of people have tested positive, including children. So I guess what advice would you have for them? I know you've said this before, but just as a reminder, what kind of things they should be taking, drinking lots of fluid, vitamins, etc.
Yeah, I think that the simple regimen that they do, that they can help themselves. Number one is exercise and watch what you eat and keep you healthy. That's number one, right? But other supplement you can take, if you're not allergic to aspirin, you can take a little baby aspirin, 81 milligram, because again, that's the anti-inflammatory effect of the baby aspirin. Zinc, vitamin D, vitamin C, okay, and melatonin. Those are the ones that you can buy over the counter. You can take every day. It boosts your immune system, so that way it decreases your risk of of getting sick, right? But those are the regimen that you can take, and you can get that anywhere over the counter, and I think it's everywhere that you can access to. But I'll protect. Again, there's no substitute for trying to be healthy with exercise and what do you eat. But if you don't, because the schedule is so busy, then try to take those vitamins again. The baby aspirin, if you're not allergic to aspirin, zinc, vitamin D, vitamin C, and melatonin. Those are the one that you should take every day just to help boost your immune system.
What about if you test positive for COVID? Same thing.
If you test positive for COVID, usually stay at home, and you can take those things. It will really help you a whole lot.
All right.
Right on.
Appreciate your time, Doc.
Thank you so much, Doc. And we salute you and all the frontliners at the clinic.
Yeah, the antiviral pill should be out this week, so hopefully the community provider can start writing for the high-risk patient. Again, they should have a guideline who's a high risk is, and it's not going to go for everybody. Okay, so I know a lot of people say that depending on who you know and who can get it, but no, it's going to go to the highest risk patient that need to take them, because this antiviral pill is not benign. You have to look for the kidney and liver function test. So the physician will determine who's eligible to get this antiviral agent. Okay.
So, Doc, we've had the pill. It's been a couple weeks. At the clinic level, have you had high-risk positives that would have been able to avail of this treatment? And what's the process? Are they just sitting on it? What's the deal?
Yeah, I mean, there's in the past week or so, especially when we don't have the Regenco, we have quite a few high-risk patients that does not have any antiviral agent to take. But again, we just have to follow them very close every day, just call them and ask them how they're doing, and make sure they're doing okay. And we all inform them that, hey, check your pulse oximeter, make sure that the oxygen is above 93%, and if below 92%, it's time to go to the emergency room.
All right, so there you go. Get that oximeter out, guys. Dust it off if you haven't already, and check yourself. 9:37. Thank you, Doc.
Okay.
Thanks, Doc.
Right on. Dr. Ho Wen, we got to take a break, guys. You good?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's 9:37. Pacific Points, Cabo Enterprises, ITE, and Jack in the Box. They're proud to present this show. It's called The Lincoln. We're continuing next. Good morning.
Need to finish the
Papa Day
job?
Guam, our community partner APL invites the public to a donation drive to benefit Harvest House right here at home. Join us on Saturday, February 5th from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Costules in Tamuning, where we will be accepting donations. Your contribution would go a long way to supporting our community and those who have come to rely on Harvest House. Any and all donations are welcome. Thank you, Guam. APL, Better Ways.
We want to see your football fan love in time for Valentine's Day and the big game on February 14th. KUAM News and KUAM Digital are rounding up and showcasing football lovers all over the island every day before the big game and giving one lucky fan and their loved ones the chance to win the ultimate game day Valentine's bash at home. All you got to do is send an email to promotions@KUAM.com with the subject Love and Football, or tag and send a DM to the KUAM News page on Instagram. Make sure to include your name and contact info and your Love and Football story. Each and every submission will be entered to win a Game Day Love Fest at their home on Valentine's Day, including a brand new 65-inch 4K TV from Buddy's Home Furnishings, party platters from participating restaurants delivered by Uno Go, beverages and swag from Heineken and Soli, sweet treats, roses for your loved ones, and much more. One lucky winner will be announced on the air on February 11th. Some conditions apply. Winner must be a resident of Guam, must be 21 years or older, and must be available to be featured in a live shot from their home on Game Day, Monday, February 14th.
See KUAM.com for complete rules and regulations. Love and Football is presented by Uno Go and Buddy's Home Furnishings. Let us show you why Buddy's is better. Jamaican Grill, Yaman, together we can. Heaven Sent, the essence of all things beautiful. The Bottle Shack, Heineken and Stoli. Enjoy responsibly. And CS Cafe. KUAM's multi-platform morning show, The Link, just got a little more delicious with Feed Me Fridays. Chris, Sabrina, Jason, and the rest of the morning crew will take some time off each Friday to talk, taste, and tempt you with all the latest and greatest food and drinks on Guam. Old faves, new hits, and everything else we can put in our bellies. It's Feed Me Fridays on The Link. Brought to you by King's Restaurants, Ruby Tuesday Guam, and Devondale. Real milk from free grazing cows.
We know you're tired of hearing about COVID-19. Some of you are probably wondering whether this is ever going to end. However long it takes, we all have to do our part, including our children, to hold the line. You can protect yourself and your family by getting vaccinated.
And if you're already vaccinated, don't let your guard down because you can still give and get COVID-19. And if you're not vaccinated, remember that if you catch the virus, you could suffer more severe complications. At the end of the day, it's the choices we make to protect ourselves, our families, and our community that will control the spread.
We know it sounds repetitive at this point, but again, wash your hands, watch your distance, and wear your mask.
Together, we have to hold the line.
The world of television is more exciting than ever. Don't miss a minute of special presentations from NBC on KUAM TV8 or from CBS on KUAM TV11. Every month, we'll bring you the fun and excitement of award shows and red carpet moments, special series presentations, and other great network programs. Brought to you locally by King's Restaurant, Ruby Tuesday Guam, and Docomo Pacific, giving you more reasons to tune in and turn on. Fall in love with TV again with the best from KUAM Communications.
Let us know what's up on our KOM News WhatsApp tip line at 671-727-0094. Share information about what's happening in your town, on Guam or the CNMI, and what you want us to know. Reach us on WhatsApp at 671-727-0094.
See what's on TV tonight with schedules, network news and notes, local promotions and giveaways on KUAM Communications social media pages. Like and follow us on Facebook or Instagram now for all the latest and never miss out.
The Culture Club returns to KUM Digital and KUM News Weekend Edition, highlighting Guam's young artists, activists, and crafters as they work to protect, preserve, and promote our Tomoto culture. Watch this weekly feature on the digital platforms of KUM News Weekend Edition, brought to you by Hanum, the freshest bottled water made in Guam.
The KUAM Podcast Network is back and on demand, featuring a great variety of podcasts from our island and region, including culture, lifestyle, awareness, crime, politics, commentary, comedy, and entertainment. Available on most streaming platforms. The KUAM Podcast Network. Subscribe and listen now.
The Culture Club returns to KUM Digital and KUM News Weekend Edition, highlighting Guam's young artists, activists, and crafters as they work to protect, preserve, and promote our Tomoto culture. Watch this weekly feature on the digital platforms of KUM News Weekend Edition, brought to you by Hanum, the freshest bottled water made in Guam.
The relationship between Guam and Manila, Philippines is undeniable as we share similar cultural traditions, history, and heritage. With generations of Filipinos calling Guam home, KUAM presents a monthly look at the capital city featuring in-depth and engaging interviews on everything from medical tourism to new business and government leaders. Veteran newscaster Nestor Lecanto delivers Beyond Our Borders. This special program is brought to you by KFC and the Medical City, where patients are partners.
Hey, we're back. We're actually going to cut out a little bit early this morning, Bree, because there's a game, right?
No, actually, there is, but there's a 10 o'clock press conference that the acting governor is holding, and we're going to be streaming that.
Wait, he's having a press conference during the game? What?
At 10 a.m., yes. And this is for the Guam Homeowner Assistance Fund program that the Department of Administration is administering. So anybody that's had problems with keeping up with their mortgage, utility, and property taxes, this program is for you. You really should take advantage of it. You can go to doa.guam.gov to apply online. You can also email at haf@doa.guam.gov. You can also call 671-638-3814. You can apply beginning today.
And it's also they've got a link up on the website doa.guam.gov. You can click on that. You just scroll down. I believe it's the second or third thing, and they've got it all up there for you guys to download that application. 9:46. So that's what's happening, guys. We're leaving you with Cover Me. Good job today, Bree.
Good job.
Some of the takeaways. There's a lot. Okay. Watch the news for more. Okay. KUAM News got your back with our 6 o'clock newscast. Leaving you with Cover Me Drive-Through Mondays. Oh my God, it's today.
Yeah.
Okay, every 10th car, as long as you're a Niners fan, gets a free Whopper. No, I'm kidding. You don't have to be a fan of anything, but let's just say we want our meeting to go good after the game, so go Niners. Okay.
Make sure to check us back right here on Facebook, 10 o'clock for the live stream.
Okay, and so again, every 10th car at Burger King gets a free Whopper. We're leaving you with Cover Me. Hey, Facebook Live, thank you guys. The Breeze, KUAM FM, Agatni Guam. It's been another episode of The Link. Hasta. Adios.
Bye.
Yeah, I feel like I'm floating right up to the sky. So many homies that left me alone, but I never paid no mind. I just been focused on me, yeah, focused up on my grind. Cause I know one day they gon' realize they should've just stayed in my life. I feel like I'm floating right up to the sky. So many homies that left me alone, but I never paid no mind. I just been focused on me, focused up on my grind. Cause I know one day they gon' realize they should've just stayed in my life, yeah. Big moves, money moves, that is the way that I move. Always win, always learn, you won't ever see me lose. If I fall down once, I'ma get back too. Yeah, I feel like I'm floating right up to the sky. So many homies that left me alone, but I never paid no mind. I just been focused on me, yeah, focused up on my grind. Cause I know one day they gon' realize they should've just stayed in my life. I feel like I'm floating right up to the sky. So many homies that left me alone, but I never paid no mind. I just been focused on me, yeah, focused up on my grind. Cause I know one day